So, Nitro, number 147, also July 6th, 1998. Open with clips from Thunder of J.J. Dillon announcing Goldberg Hogan for the World Championship on this here Nitro show.
That's right, on Thunder.
Yeah. 4 days notice, whatever it was.
No announcement on last week's show, no indication on last week's show that they were going to do anything resembling this. If you don't remember the story, they sold all these tickets, and Hogan and Goldberg was going to be the dark match, which was going to end in it was going to be a non-title match that Goldberg was going to win. So Hogan sees all these tickets being sold, and he's like, I want credit. So he agreed to drop the title to Goldberg, and they were going to give Goldberg a long reign, and then Hogan had been promised when it was time, he was going to be the man who would end the Goldberg streak and get the title back.
That's right.
And then he got fucked.
Things change.
Now, the other thing that's notable here is they come out on TV, and there's 1 million people there.
This looks so awesome.
Yeah. So, the actual attendance was something like 41,412.
Okay.
It was over 40,000.
Yeah.
That's the key. It was over 41,000, if I recall. They come out and they announce 39.
Sure. Because WCW.
Because they're fucking idiots.
They lied their way down.
This was not the first time either. They did shows that drew like 20,000 where they claimed 12. Like, is it that hard? So yeah, 41,000 people showed up, and they I don't know. Maybe they thought they could pay less taxes. I don't know what.
None of that.
Or they were just fucking incompetent.
That's more likely.
Which is more likely, yes.
So we had all kinds of cool camera angles because the building is huge, and every once in a while they'd use the camera on the floor to shoot up, and earlier in the show, you see the sunlight shining in through the roof. Looked very, very cool. Big, huge crowd, all into, well, a lot of stuff, not everything, actually. So Hogan and his crew open the show with a promo. He hypes up the tag match at Bash at the Beach. Promises to end DDP's wrestling career. Promises to end Karl Malone's basketball career. Says Goldberg is not in his league. The match is not going to happen. But for the 1 or 2 Goldberg fans here who want to see him, I have agreed to put someone else in the NWO Black and White against Goldberg. And you know what? If Goldberg gets lucky and wins, then I'll grant him a title shot. Absolutely thunderous Goldberg chance. Mean Gene interviewed a guy. I'm not sure if this was a NASCAR driver or just a NASCAR fan. They established he was from Pangburn, Arkansas. He either drove a car or won a car on something. I don't know what happened here.
I can't believe they put this on the air.
In the opening segment, basically.
Gene did everything that he could to carry this guy. Guy was painfully awkward. I don't even know what the point of this is. Like,
nor do
hey,
I.
You won a car. Do you like it? Yeah? Well, we're going to give away another one. I think that was the whole point of this here.
I guess.
Then they blur the number on the screen. But Mean Gene makes sure to let us know it's 1-800-TEAM-VAL.
Well, I'm sure the network blurred the number.
You know what that means. Call it here on the air.
I hadn't thought of this.
Let's see what it is here in, what year is it?
2017? Yeah. 19 years later.
I hope no one answers, to be honest.
On July 4th.
Thank you for calling United Airlines. If you know the part...
Well, that answered that question.
I was not expecting that.
United Airlines.
I was not expecting that at all.
Wow. How about that?
You should call back and demand your car.
Team Val. Does that spell United? No.
No?
That's weird.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, how about that? Maybe United's giving away a NASCAR.
Maybe they are.
I don't think so.
Booker T versus Dean Malenko. And they wrestled for a minute or two. They fell outside. Chris Jericho comes out on the ramp, starts making fun of Malenko. Dean is distracted. Booker hits an axe kick and wins.
God, it's like 2017 all over again.
A 2017 Raw match on Nitro in 1998.
Poor Malenko was just struggling through the finish because he had to get through the ropes and get axe kicked. And he's just like, he's trying to idiot-proof it. And he's still got whacked in the back of the head.
It did not look very good. Karl Malone did a pre-tape promo running down Dennis Rodman, who was not there tonight, but would be at Bash at the Beach. Canyon versus Raven. Did I mention this crowd was huge?
It was a very large crowd.
It was huge.
Yeah, 3,000 more than you think.
I guess so. Canyon ran wild, but he went up top and Lodi crossed him for the heat. They did a bunch of spots with a chair, which is not a DQ, But then Saturn ran out and attacked both men. That was a DQ. So I'll add that to the list. Saturn runs in.
Maybe that's why I thought there were so many, because I was counting all of the stupid things they did on this show.
That could be it, too. So they claimed, the announcers did, that Saturn had attacked Canyon on accident.
Yeah, he didn't know who it was, they said.
I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally thrown around 6'4", 260-pound men.
Yeah.
Just a mistake.
It's one thing if you get the powder in your face, or it's a blindfold match.
Or something.
It was none of that. He just didn't know that he was hooking up Canyon, his buddy, his tag team partner, for a Death Valley driver.
So he put Raven on a table to splash the top rope to the floor. The table didn't break. And then,
of course.
And then Canyon did some kind of move on Saturn.
Yeah.
A mess. A total mess.
But you know what's funny is the fans were so into Saturn. Like, he's laying everybody out. He does this awesome splash off the top. He's just killing dudes. They're going absolutely crazy. And then Canyon gets his revenge laying him out, and the place dies.
I don't know. A limo pulls up outside. It is Buff and Mama Bagwell.
Judy Bagwell.
Judy Bagwell helps Buff out of the wheelchair, or out of the limo into his wheelchair. And they went into the building. We had Nitro Party clips.
These always look like so much fun. No?
I think this was just like a best of.
Yeah.
But I'm usually left with these parties thinking, man, what a bunch of geeks.
Man. When that's Vinny saying that, that's a bunch of geeks.
Yeah. Clips last week of Karl Malone and Dallas Page driving a semi to Nitro. The NWO backstage preparing to tear the truck apart with crowbars. I'm looking at this, and there's Rick Rude and his new beard, and there's Hogan and Bryan Adams, and there's Bret Hart.
Well, if you'd only seen the payoff to them getting all of those sledgehammers and crowbars or whatever to beat up the truck, Malone and DDP showed up and they fled. That was a payoff after 3 fucking hours. I'm not making that up.
Sweet.
That's exactly what happened.
Bret here was just cashing checks in his head.
Oh, yeah.
The only way to get through this. It's just a job. So later at the end of the show, Hogan's cutting a promo when Page and Malone ambushed him. And then it led to Malone and Hogan doing some wrestling. And it was terrible, but man, the people loved it. And Malone looked like he was having the time of his life. So then back here this week, Page and Malone came out for a promo.
Where are you? Oh, there we go. Never mind.
I'm in the right spot?
No, I was getting ahead of myself.
I've been wrong before. So Page promises Goldberg's going to beat up Hogan tonight, and Page is going to beat him up on Sunday. Malone runs down Rodman a bit, says he's the Rodzilla killer, and they go through the crowd.
He tried very hard.
It was simple but effective.
He tried very hard.
It was much better than his wrestling.
Well, his wrestling actually is not that bad. I thought the promo was... He was a guy pretending to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it for 1 second. But you know what? All the fans bought it.
Fans bought it for sure.
So what the hell do I know?
And they bought the show.
They sure did.
So, yeah. Had a sit-down pre-tape promo with Mongo.
This was so weird. Like, he's talking about how great the Horsemen are.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure what he was talking about, but he was very good at saying whatever it was he was saying.
Sure.
It's like a Bray Wyatt promo. And then they talked to Mike Ditka.
They sure did.
Who I'm glad they identified him as Mike Ditka, because if he would have had the proper beard, he could have very easily pulled off Harley Race.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ditka talked about what a great football player and warrior Mongo was, and Mongo was talking about how joining the Horsemen was just as great as joining a great organization like the Chicago Bears. And finally he says, it's time for the Horsemen to ride, but we need one man to put us back together. And he looks into the camera and says, Arn Anderson, it's time to get the Horsemen together and let them run wild again. And I thought, why do you need Arn? If you want to be the Horsemen...
They don't have flair.
Well, I know they don't have flair. I know it's leading to that. But hey.
Well, at the time, it really wasn't leading to that.
Oh, it wasn't?
Well, no, because they didn't have flair. There was still a lawsuit.
I see. Regardless, you couldn't find 3 buddies and say, we're the Horsemen now?
No, it's you've got to get the blessing of Arn or Rick.
I see. Scott Putski versus Scotty Riggs. I don't know why both men were dressed like pirates, but they were.
I was going to say Scott Putski was dressed like a vampire.
Yeah, from
Well, Riggs has the eye patch because, his eye got gimmicked
what's
up.
the Tom Cruise vampire movie?
Interview with a Vampire.
Interview with a Vampire. The Snot. That's what Putski was looked like, which is half vampire, half pirate. So, and Putski's got, or Riggs has the eye patch gimmick. Anyway, this match was 40,000 people taking a collective nap. They did some stuff.
It was all right.
It wasn't bad, but no one cared.
Nobody cared.
There
That
were
is
40,000 people, and 0 of them came to see Scott Putski and Scotty Riggs.
No.
Putski won with the sit-out spine buster, which Tanay, in a ultimate 1990s moment, said, that move, he calls it the Putski bomb.
Wow.
Because every move in the 90s was take your last name, you add bomb, you add drop, or you add lock, and that is your finisher.
Hey, I never did that.
No.
We started in the 90s. I never had no stupid name for my moves. Riggs must have been pretty good because I have not seen very many good Scott Putski matches.
Riggs was really good.
But this was
I mean, it can't be that good, or 40,000 people wouldn't have napped.
well, in a vacuum, it was a good match.
Sure.
But in front of 40,000 people that didn't want to see either guy, It was rough going.
NWO was waiting for a limo outside.
Well, first we had Goldberg in the back, and he rammed his own head into a locker backstage, which, if you recall, earlier this year he did on Raw, and he knocked himself loopy and cut a goofy promo.
Yeah.
Don't do this, everybody.
Let's see. Scott Hall was in the limo. He promised to take Goldberg to school.
Hogan was very confident about this. Scott Hall hasn't been on TV forever because he's had a myriad of problems.
Yeah.
But Hogan has decided, well, he's here tonight. I'm sure he's going to beat this undefeated man.
Hogan was always overconfident. It's part of being Hollywood Hogan.
I'll tell you who else was overconfident was Scott Hall.
Well, that's
when
also
he tried
true.
to carry this guy to a match and fucked it all up.
Jericho came out for a promo. He said Rey Mysterio Jr. had beaten him last week, and thus he deserved a title shot at Bash at the Beach. JJ interrupted, said Jericho's facing Ultimo Dragon tonight. And Malenko comes out and says, no, you have a match with Jericho at the Bash. If either of you touch each other, he said you'd be disqualified. But Jericho, being a pro, says, you mean he'll be suspended? Because Jericho's great. So Jericho begins to insult Dean to his face. And he tries to play nice, but it's a swerve, and he talks about Dean's dad always being on the road, and maybe that explains why Dean and Joe look nothing alike. I almost thought they looked totally alike. But anyway. So Dean is mad now. He attacks Jericho. Security drags him away.
The show went off the air, and I still don't know if they're going to have a match on Sunday. Because it sure seems like they're not from here.
I don't know what to tell you.
The whole deal was, if Malenko doesn't touch him until Bash at the Beach, it'll be a no DQ match.
Uh-huh.
But if he touches him, he will be, suspended or something.
Yeah.
According to Jericho. But not JJ. So he attacked him, and so could we get an update on if the match is going to happen or not?
I don't know.
I'm kind of interested.
So Jericho versus Ultimo Dragon for 2 minutes, and Dean Malenko runs in for the DQ. Malenko runs in. Then Malenko is handcuffed and taken away. Johnny Swinger versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. Johnny Swinger got to cut a promo in front of 40,000 people on Nitro.
His promo was that I'm the hottest commodity in wrestling, and tonight you're going to find out why.
And then Chavo beat him in 2 minutes. With
There
a tornado
honestly
DDT.
was so much spare time on this show that we needed this.
I guess so. All I know is throughout the match, he constantly asked Chavo, do you know who I am? And I thought, this is where Bully Ray got it. He stole it from Johnny Swinger at the Georgia Dome show.
Can you imagine?
Chavo won with a tornado DDT.
This Chavo thing started out as him playing mind games with Eddie. But then it became his character is now a crazy idiot.
Yes.
It's no buys.
No. He said Swinger had split ends, cut off some of his hair, challenged Eddie to a hair match at Bash at the Beach. Disco Inferno and Alex Wright versus Public Enemy. So Disco comes out and dances. Now
Chavo's promo was terrible, by the way.
Well,
they're building up a hair versus hair match, and he's just out there doing goofy comedy.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is quite horrible. So Disco comes out dancing. Alex comes out dancing. And there's Tokyo Magnum, who is jealous that they get to dance and he doesn't. So he comes out dancing with them. They don't like him.
So last week on the show, all of Dragon's students were on the show doing various things, mostly jobs. And he was on the other side of the ring with Disco and Alex. Now they've decided, hey, this is a cool idea. This guy can come out and dance, and he can get put through a table. And all I could think was, Tokyo Magnum came all the way from Mexico City for the past 2 weeks, and this is all they could come up with for this guy. I presume that Bischoff heard they were from Mexico City and thought they were Mexicans.
I guess.
Just had to destroy them.
Yeah. So they had a horrible brawl. They tried to put Alex through a table. Tokyo made the save. Disco and Alex fled. They put Tokyo through 2 tables. Then Alex and Disco attacked enemy with trash cans, which was eventually a DQ. This segment was a pile of shit.
How in the world were Disco and Alex using cans a disqualifiable offense in a Public Enemy match?
We had already seen
Am I missing something
interference from a 5th man and 2 tables broken. I don't know. I kind of want to count this as a run-in.
Dude, count it as a run-in. If anyone can find me one
Tokyo
WCW Public Enemy
runs
match where they
and-
used chairs and trash cans and got DQ'd, I want to hear about it.
This was the one.
Imagine paying to come to this show at this point.
Gene interviews Buff Bagwell.
That's where the show got better.
That's for sure. So Bagwell suffered 2 broken vertebrae in his match against Rick Steiner. Nearly died twice in ICU.
All true.
Says he loves being back in Atlanta. Talks about lying on his back, not knowing if he'd ever be able to appear before the fans again. Thanks the fans for their support. Says he loves them all. Thanks his mom for everything she's done. Says he loves her too. He promises he's still Buff and he's still the stuff. And everyone cheers. And Gene starts to say goodbye to Judy and tell her thanks for coming out. And Buff got through this promo. Like, this is all true. Marcus Bagwell suffered 2 broken vertebrae in his neck and nearly died. And he came back here to get to say thank you to the people who had supported him and sent him, cards and love and everything to his hometown. And he came out and he was able to put on a show for like 3 minutes or whatever this was. He put on a performance. And it was a really good promo. And he's done and he checks out. And Gene talks to his mom and Buff can now turn his switch off. And he's not Buff anymore. Now he can be Marcus again. And he just puts his hands to his face and begins to shake. This dude he knew how important this was and what a big deal this was.
You got to remember that whatever you think of Buff Bagwell, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and WCW and WWE, before he got hurt, he was a great worker.
Oh, yeah.
Then he gets hurt, and he comes back here, and he cuts the best babyface promo you ever saw. And at this moment, if he would have come back 100%, he could have been one of the biggest stars in all of wrestling. Do I need to tell everybody how they fucked this up? Or should we just wait? Let's just wait. Let's just wait.
I think most people realize it, but yes.
I mean, holy criminies. I can't even believe it when I think about it.
Magnum was a bigger star when he got hurt. But had Magnum been able to come back, it would have been the biggest thing ever. And Buff coming back was... Well, it did happen, so it was not a bigger miracle of Magnum coming back, but it was a big, big, big deal. It was overcoming many odds and quite a struggle. Goldberg versus Scott Hall.
I must talk about this. We are reviewing a show where Hulk Hogan got a significantly better match out of Goldberg than Scott Hall did. Scott Hall, I don't know if maybe it wasn't his best day, maybe he'd had a long night, maybe, who even knows? But he forgot the cardinal lesson of working with a green guy, which is you must idiot-proof the match. He went in there and he just decided that he was going to do a match that he would do with maybe, I don't know, Shawn Michaels. They fucked everything up. Goldberg did a shoot Irish whip. I don't know what they were trying to do or how it got messed up, but he shot Hall so hard into the ropes. Hall's running out of control, hits the ropes, and they kind of bonk into each other and fall down. Everything they did was terrible. Goldberg randomly just throws 3 arm drags.
That was his comeback.
Yeah,
arm
3
drags.
Arm drags.
Yeah.
Hall bails. NWO geeks come down. Hall goes for the edge. Goldberg backdrops his way free. Spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. I mean, the downside was this was one of the worst matches Goldberg ever had with Scott Hall. The crowd loved it.
Absolutely.
It did not matter one bit how horrendous this match was. As long as they got to see their spear and jackhammer, their money was well spent. I couldn't even believe my eyes. Do you know how fans today would have reacted to this absolute train wreck?
40,000 people in this building, 0 butts and seats, everyone standing start to finish. Now, you mentioned that.
That's when you know a guy's over.
Yeah.
When he can go in there and put on the most horrendous performance, and they still love everything about
love
it.
When he wins. That Irish whip spot, I'm like you. I have no idea what they were thinking or what happened or what went wrong, but all I know is William Goldberg took Scott Hall by the arm and threw him into the ropes with all of his might. I think he was trying to break the ropes with Scott Hall's body.
I don't know what happened.
And Scott hit the ropes, totally out of control, just collapsed. People loved it. People went, great. We're so happy about that spot. I actually enjoyed this, as train wreck as it might have been. Goldberg's arm-dragging comeback.
You loved it because it was horrible.
Because it was unique. I've never seen a match where a 290-pound killer arm drags his way to victory.
Well, he did.
So, yeah, otherwise, you had the interference. Geeks came out, but then Hall and Malone came out and attacked them with chairs to preserve Goldberg's chance to win. Did we mention that?
I may have. I don't know.
So, yes, Goldberg wins. Everyone goes crazy. And, yeah, everyone loved Goldberg. Psychosis versus Juventud Guerrera. Juvi tries a dive. Psychosis kind of catches him. Juvi plummets straight down to earth and lands on his head. And Bobby Heenan, channeling me 19 years later, just screams, "Why?" And he goes on this rant about how stupid it is to do all this stuff every single week and how it's going to break your body eventually. Shortly thereafter, Psychosis is sent on from the top rope to the floor. Juvi hits the Juvi driver. The flock comes out. I guess they had to come out early because the building was so big, it took forever to get down there. Juvi hits the 450 for the win, and the flock lays him out. They wipe out Psychosis. This was all so important that in the middle of the brawl, they cut to more Goldberg highlights. Had a Page and Malone versus Hogan and Robin video package. Hacksaw Duggan versus the Giant.
You know, it was better than I expected. Although Hacksaw attempted the worst knee drop I've ever seen.
Well, here was their plan. Hacksaw would make a comeback. He would hit the 3-point stance, which was always his finish. I guess he used a knee drop in WCW, but he hits the 3-point stance and the Giant goes down. And instead of making a cover, Duggan goes for this knee drop. But the Giant says, I don't know whose idea this was, but somebody said, listen, you do the knee drop. I'll hold my fist up and I'll punch you. It sounds so simple.
It sounds so stupid.
Clearly it was not.
Like, do they have an agent?
I don't know.
You don't even need an agent. Just have a guy that listens to all your spots and just gives you the thumbs up or the thumbs down. That one's a thumbs down. That's absolutely idiotic.
So Giant cut him off.
Think about this. I realize that he's a giant, but like the length of his fist to his shoulder, there's no way that's longer than the length of Duggan's knee to the top of his head.
Duggan's not small.
It doesn't even make sense.
No.
A stupid idea.
So it looked comedically bad in every way. And then Giant won with a chokeslam. A sloppy match. Then Giant cut a promo calling Kevin Green a gutless coward and a wimp. Challenged Green to a singles match at Bash at the Beach. And out comes Kevin Green, the badass football player who wrestles on the side. So over the past month or two on Raw, The Rock has become a prominent heel, in part because he wears polo shirts, pleated shorts, and loafers. Kevin Green comes out here in a polo shirt, pleated shorts, and loafers.
It was a look back then.
I guess so. So he spits in Giant's face, he ducks a clothesline, he clotheslines him out of the ring. It is Giant versus Kevin Green at Bash at the Beach in 6 days.
Yeah, clotheslines him out of the ring, and Giant just nonchalantly walks to the back like he could not possibly give a shit. And it felt like they were rushed for time, but then, as we'll soon see, clearly they weren't that rushed for time, because they had more matches in the wings.
Malone had another promo promising to get his hands on Robin at the Bash. Jim Neidhart versus Dallas Page.
I gotta tell you something, Vinny. You did not watch, was it last week where we had the Jim Neidhart match and the Mongo match, which were the two worst matches I've ever seen in my life?
I believe I missed that show.
Okay. Well, last week, Jim Neidhart has a match, and I've never seen a worse wrestler than Jim the Anvil Neidhart
Really?
in my whole life. He was so bad.
I'm going to have to go back and check this out now.
And then, an hour later, out comes Steve McMichael, and he's even worse.
Wow.
I didn't even think it was possible. Point of all of this is, you can make fun of Dallas Page all you want for scripting his matches and faxing people a list of moves and all of this other stuff, but let me tell you something. He had the best Jim the Anvil Neidhart probably since the Hart Foundation versus Demolition Best of 3 Falls at like SummerSlam 90.
I do remember watching Neidhart in these earlier Nitro shows when he first showed up and wondering how... I had a new appreciation for Brett
Dude.
for making him look so good for all these years.
Neidhart goes in there, he beats up DDP for 2 minutes, he eats the diamond cutter, he gets pinned. It was fine.
It's actually even better than that.
It was a miracle.
It's even better than that because Neidhart got the heat with a low blow, but then Page set up the diamond cutter with his own low blow. Poetic justice. That was a theme here. Wolfpack came out for a promo. I legitimately forgot these guys existed. It led to a match which was Kidman and Sick Boy versus Sting and Lex Luger. Now, Sting and Kevin Nash are the tag team champions, but Nash did not want to wrestle here. So Sting and Luger won in a complete squash. Sick Boy submitted to a torture rack in 30 seconds. I guess this sets up Luger and Sting as champion or contenders to Nash and Sting.
Sure, yeah.
That's the best I can do.
Yeah, you should have watched last week's show when Luger just lost his temper in the ring. It was because of Neidhart. And you must just go back and watch the Neidhart match last week and make sure you watch Luger's hot tag and watch the Mongo match.
Okay.
You must.
All right. I'll check these out. Then it was time for Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan.
Allow me for a moment. This is a historic match. This is a historic moment. It was magical. It was a magical moment in a company that was fucking everything up that they could. For the historical record, Hulk Hogan came out on the ramp and he claimed that he was going to kick Goldberg's butt. And he paused just like that before screaming the word butt. There's no NWO. He's out there all by himself. He gets in the ring. Now, I knew what was going to happen. I remember this quite vividly, in fact. I remember the roll of toilet paper, like it was yesterday, that flies into the ring as Goldberg's got him up for the jackhammer. But as I watched the match with fresh eyes, when these guys got in the ring and the match was about to begin, I thought, there's 41,412 fans in this building. And there's 41,412 fans that have to be thinking that this is going to end when the NWO runs in. Like, could there possibly have been one human being in the building that thought that we actually were going to get a clean finish and a title change in a Hulk Hogan match on a random Nitro where the match wasn't even built up last week? There had to be nobody there that thought this would happen. So, as noted, Hogan does nothing but basic stuff.
Oh, yes.
He had the most basic match with Goldberg. It was 1,000 times better than the Scott Hall match. He kept it so simple. He kept it so effective. He had a spot where he whipped Goldberg with the belt, and then Goldberg had the opportunity to use the belt, but he's Goldberg, so he snatched it away because he'd rather fight.
That's right.
Hogan whacked him with a chair, and there's one fatal flaw with this match. They send out Kurt Hennig, and unfortunately, they're in the Georgia Dome. It's gigantic. So Kurt Hennig has to start running like 5 minutes before it's time for him to do a spot. So the crowd stops paying attention to the match as Hulk Hogan is in the middle of giving Goldberg 3 leg drops of doom.
Yes.
They're so distracted that the camera misses the 3rd leg drop of doom.
Mm-hmm.
This right here, if you think about Hulk Hogan's career from like 1978, 1979, all the way through July of 1998, no man had ever kicked out of the leg drop after being hit with the leg drop 3 times.
No.
I don't even know if he ever hit anybody with a leg drop 3 times.
I think he missed it on Warrior.
He did. He missed it on Warrior. Warrior hit the splash and pinned him.
Yeah, that would have been it.
I'm trying to think. Sid kicked out at Mania 8, but it was a fuck-up.
Papa Shango was late.
Yep, 'cause somebody was late.
Yeah.
And maybe there was
But he didn't kick out of 3.
there was a Flair match somewhere or something, but he hit Goldberg with his finishing move 3 straight times.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, everybody's paying attention to Kurt Hennig. And DDP lays out Kurt Hennig with the Diamond Cutter, or Malone, or
Malone
whoever.
did,
Malone
actually,
did,
yeah.
And so then they jump back in the ring, and Hogan's shaking his head because he can't believe this guy's kicked out of his move. I'm like, this match would have been so much better and so much more dramatic if the focus had not been taken away from that historic moment.
Yeah.
Goldberg jumps to his feet, no sells, 3 leg drops, hits the spear, lifts the guy up for the jackhammer. Some dude throws a full roll of toilet paper like a streamer. It's like a New Japan match. Jackhammers the guy and pins him, and the place goes crazy. And you know who goes the craziest of all? Bobby the Brain Heenan. He is losing his mind, and he's screaming, "Thank you," probably because they didn't smarten him up, because they never smarten the announcers up there at the end. They probably didn't know what was going to happen, and he was probably so happy that they didn't fuck this up.
Probably, yes.
It was amazing. It was an iconic moment in the history of professional wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is, factually, this is the peak of World Championship Wrestling.
It was.
This was the highlight of their entire run.
This was the new peak, and they never reached this pinnacle again.
No, it was all downhill from here. The only thing I can really add to your excellently detailed report there, Brian, is how many times have we said that you watch a guy come out and do his entrance early in the show and everyone cheers, but he does it again later in the show and it's never the same reaction?
That's true.
Goldberg came out for the match with Scott Hall, and they did his full entrance. And of course, got a massive reaction. Then the exact same guy comes out an hour later. Not only does he get the exact same entrance, it's actually longer.
Yeah.
They showed more of him walking backstage. The Doors Dome was a big building. He had to do a lot of walking to come out and stand in the pyro and breathe smoke and throw his kicks. 10 times the reaction he got an hour earlier. You can't fathom how popular he was. There is no... I can't even draw a line between
There is
anyone's
no
way.
modern equivalent.
Equivalent, thank you. There's no comparison to be made. It's incomprehensible how much people liked this guy and how happy they were when he came out and beat Scott Hall and how 10 times happier they were when he came out and beat Hulk Hogan. It was amazing.
And unnamed shitheads in the back trying to figure out how they can just fuck this guy over. It's crazy. I mean, it's really crazy. You know what I mean? Like all the money they were making, I don't know. This is a broken record. Just read my damn book or listen to the audiobook. Death of WCW, Amazon.com. It's just mind-blowing to me. What they had.
This is 98?
98.
So 2.5 years later, dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
Dead. That's why I always tell all these crazies that are so into everything that WWE does. Like, WWE can do no wrong. Any criticism I have, they're just talking about how much money they're making and how everything's great and fans love them, blah, blah, blah. 2.5 years later, this company was dead. D-E-A-D. Dead.
Thank God there was no math in that.
You're right. Thank God I won the spelling bee.
That's right.
Numerous times.
So those are a hell of a pair of shows.
They were 2 amazing shows. But it's just going to be... You know where it goes from here. I find the July 13, 1998 Nitro. Now, for some reason, there was something about it when I was getting ready to load it up that I thought, this doesn't seem right. So I made sure to look at the little graphic on the side of the screen, and there was Jericho, and there was J.J. Dillon, and J.J. Dillon was holding the top of his head.
It was a hysterical screenshot.
I was like, okay, this has to be it. So I turn on the show, and they're talking about DDP and Malone or something. So I start watching the fucking show. I watched 40 fucking minutes of this show. And then out comes, for a match, Buff Bagwell.
What?
And I was like,
That's wrong.
Okay, so I missed something on the pay-per-view or I missed something on Thunder. The fuck is Buff Bagwell wrestling for?
Apparently magic healing powers of some kind.
So, sure as shit, I was watching the wrong show.
99.
No, 90-fucking-7.
Oops.
So little had changed in a year that I watched 40 minutes of Nitro before I figured out that I was watching the wrong goddamn show. And then I went back and I found the right show, and it was the same J.J. Dillon holding his head with Chris Jericho. So I don't know. I do not know what happened.
That's tremendous.
My fury.
This is a good review right now.
My fury.
So what happened?
I went back and I started watching the right show.
No, I mean on the show.
Do a review of the 40 minutes you watched.
Dude, it was the exact same show. There was, Nash was turning on Giant, which I'm pretty sure was happening in 98, right?
Sure.
Except he was dressed up as Sting. But that happened so fucking often that I just thought, I guess the guy was dressed up like Sting at the pay-per-view. I didn't watch the fucking pay-per-view. I don't know why he was dressed up as Sting. And then I was going through, because I went back to the Observer, because I was like, seriously, I've been watching the wrong fucking show. And they mentioned that there was an Eddie Guerrero Chavo hair match at the pay-per-view. And then I suddenly remembered, dude, I just saw Chavo on this show, and he had hair. I must be watching the wrong show. I'd never been so mad.
Yeah.
But it was worth it to realize that I could watch 40 minutes of Nitro in 1998 and not realize I was watching a show from 1 year earlier. That's mind-boggling.
Well, they were in a rut.
I mean, the same thing would happen today probably on Raw.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I mean, 20 years from now, if I go back and I watched a year earlier, I wouldn't know the difference.
We should go back and see what was on Raw this week in 2016. I bet Roman was involved and people hated him. In the meantime, we shall discuss this here episode of Nitro, number 148, July 13th, 1998. I'm going to repeat that because apparently people get confused. 148,
You know what's funny,
July
by the way?
13th, 1998.
You know what's funny also? Is I was 40 minutes into the show, and it was before Bagwell came out healthy, that it struck me, we've gone 40 minutes, and there's been like no mention of Goldberg winning the title
Yes.
at the show. Now, granted, they did open this Nitro with Goldberg winning the title, but then we had 3 hours of television that was not devoted to Goldberg until the last 2 minutes of the show.
Right.
Yeah.
This was the Hulk Hogan show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew that, but it was like even wackier looking back in hindsight. They put the title on Goldberg, and the whole show was built around Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And Goldberg came out for one match in the final 2 minutes of the show as champion.
Uh-huh.
Dude.
Well, 3 hours to kill, so we got a very long edition of the Nitro Girls dancing. I was fine with this, by the way.
They were in Vegas, by the way.
It was great.
Yes.
Announcers bragged about the most watched wrestling match in the history of cable television last week. Fans were just demanding flair. And a video package devoted to Goldberg's win last week.
Thankfully, 10 minutes of the show was nothing. I fast-forwarded like crazy.
That's true. Now, we talked about Hogan last week doing everything he could to make Goldberg a star. We did not give him a credit for this pinfall. This is not just a 3 count. Goldberg covers him. The ref counts 3. Goldberg pops up. The ref pops up. Everyone's cheering. Hogan just lies there. He was down for like a 10 count or more. He did everything he could have done on that night to put Goldberg over. So Hogan and his crew come out. Says Goldberg's a flash in the pan. He loves his brothers like a family, but it's only Scott Hall's fault he was in that situation to face Goldberg in the first place. And as he's running Scott Hall down, Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude apparently just ad-libbing.
They were the best bouncers of all time.
Rude, in his suit, just kind of walks over and puts himself in a position to be behind Hall. And he looks at Kurt, and Kurt looks at Rude, and does, through body language, give him an elbow. Nothing happened, but Kurt wanted Rick to lay out Hall from behind.
I just loved that everybody was fine, and then Hogan blamed Hall, and as soon as he put the heat on Hall, that's when they realized, we better get behind this guy, because we're about to kill him.
Shit might go down. We should be prepared.
Oh, they were excited.
Oh, yeah. So Hogan challenges Hall to a match tonight.
That's why they're great heels. Like, they're all buddy-buddy, and they all talk about how it's for life, but the moment Hogan put heat on Hall, they didn't even blink. They were like, well, we got to take this guy out.
Do what the boss says.
He's out of here.
Yep. So, Hall says, I did everything you asked me. Goldberg beat you too, and I accept your challenge. Hogan refers to himself as the big bad creep.
Oh my gosh.
Then turns and asks Bischoff what he's laughing at.
He had so many horrible lines here.
He's laughing because you just called yourself the big bad creep.
And he referred to Nash as Little Bo Peep, and he was the big bad creep.
That's what he said.
That's gross.
Well, he also, when he told Bischoff that he was going to referee tonight and call it down the middle, he said we'd find out who rules and who drools.
Yes.
That's what he said, Craig.
I know.
So Hogan insists Bischoff is the ref for the match. Hall throws his toothpick and shirt in Hogan's face. Everyone faces off. It's Hall on one side, everyone else on the other. And Hogan says, let's watch the disciple take care of business.
You know, the disciple was standing there, and they
That's what he does best.
showed the back of his head.
Oh, yeah.
And if you recall in like 92, 93, Brutus and Hogan, or no, something happened with Brutus. I don't think they were together. There was another accident they were
Sailing.
together. But anyway, Brutus was like parasailing or something, and he got his face just destroyed.
Yes.
So they show the back of his head, and there's this fucking gigantic, like 3-inch long thing on the back of his head. And I was like, can't believe all these years I never noticed that giant scar he had on him from that accident. But then I realized those are fresh stitches.
Yeah.
Turns out DDP whacked this guy with the chair.
Mm-hmm.
They claimed 47 stitches.
I claim BS.
I'm not sure that's true, but this was a disaster. The back of this dude's
giant
head.
gash.
Yeah.
And Disciple was not happy. So what do? They sent him to a match.
Oh, yeah. So, Disciple is rambling on. It was a fine promo, but he calls Page a coward, hit me in the chair with the back of my head, left me with 47 stitches. I want a match with you tonight, Dallas Page. And it's just going. Scott Hall in the background just waves his hands and walks out of the ring. Just had enough of this shit. And Hogan and Disciple just ramble and ramble and ramble, and eventually I stopped paying attention, and the next thing I knew, it was done.
You know, we should keep in mind, by the way, that DDP hit him with a chair, and he required 47 stitches or whatever the night before. You really think he got out of that without a concussion?
Oh, of course not.
Back in the ring here tonight.
He didn't do anything, but
His first match. They waited to make him wrestle until after he'd been concussed. They let us know Hogan and Rodman had beaten Page and Malone at Bash on the Beach after Disciple had laid Page out with the Apocalypse,
Yeah, the
which
Apocalypse.
is a stunner. Horace versus Barbarian.
this match went. It was 28 minutes into the show, and we had our first wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts.
I hope you were keeping track of how much wrestling we got as this hour went on.
I didn't, actually.
Match was not very good. I like when, I guess they had a spot planned where Barbarian was going to, there'd be belly to belly, and Barbarian would overhook the arms and do a suplex.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Only the spot somehow ended up with Horace having the double overhooks. So Barbarian just threw him off, grabbed his arms, and threw him anyway. And they did some stuff for a while. This also had 47 things going on. Jimmy Hart got involved, the stop sign, and eventually Barbarian kicked the stop sign into Horace's face and pinned him.
Well, at least it was poetic. Horace hit him with the sign behind the ref's back for the heat, and then he tried to use it again. Barbarian used the kick of fear to the sign for the win.
Sure.
Then I got so mad.
I bet you did.
I got so happy, and then I got so sad. Rarely does it happen in such short order.
The flock runs out to attack the Barbarian. Who should make the save but the monster Meng?
Yay.
Meng cleans house like only he can
You're
do.
saying yay? I think the key to this show is, this happened twice on this show. Once with Ming and Barbarian.
Oh, yeah.
Once with Hall and Nash.
Yep.
And you know it was the same in both situations?
Nobody cared.
The fans were so furious.
Yeah.
Because the fans would love to see Ming and Barbarian together. It's not like they're it's not like they're the best team in the world. I mean, they are, but the fans didn't think so. But the fans knew that they were better together than doing these bullshit matches apart.
Yeah.
And obviously, they loved seeing Hall and Nash together. So you teased the fans with two things they wanted to see, and then you took it away from them. It was like I was watching Raw today.
Yes. So Meng cleans house. We don't talk enough about, of all the many reasons Meng is awesome, he's got this kick that's like half big boot and half super kick. It's great. It's fucking great. And he cleans the house.
There's no technique involved with it.
It's just throw the foot
But
up
you
there.
believe that he'd kill you with it.
Oh, sure. And Barbarian thinks they are friends again, but then Meng drops him with a Tongan death grip.
I did like that the Barbarian obviously was close to Meng. They were buddies. And boy, did he sell this death grip.
Oh, yeah.
He laid there like a dead body.
He'd been killed.
Yeah.
It's the death grip for a reason. Had pics of Goldberg beating Hennig at Bash to the Beach.
I loved Hennig's promo when he came out.
Hennig and Rude did a promo.
Hennig comes out. And first off, Rude says, I wasn't at the pay-per-view last night to watch your back because somebody canceled my ticket. He flat out blamed Goldberg.
Sabotage.
Like Goldberg had called the airline. Hello.
I'm Rick. Cancel my flight.
My name is Rick Rude. This is pre-9/11. Can you just cancel my flight?
Here, let me comb my mustache.
In fact, I got a new mailing address and a new name for you to send my reimbursement check.
straighten my tie.
Same abs, though.
So then Hennig comes out, and he says, I lost to Goldberg last night, but I learned his weakness.
It's even funnier in hindsight.
Tonight I won another match, and I'm going to exploit that weakness. And Rick, you know that if I think I can win a fight by myself, I want to do it by myself. And I think I can, so I want you to stay in the back. I'm going to exploit this weakness, and I'm going to be the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion. And because I did it by myself, Goldberg will have nothing to cry about.
I had to laugh because
It was awesome.
Hennig was the tannest he's ever been on WCW. He's like, I'm in the main event.
I guess so.
I got to look good.
Rude asks, are you sure? Is really what you want to do? But he reluctantly agreed. Had a special bonus match at the pay-per-view.
And I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what happened, by the way. Hennig wasn't even screwing with us. Rude never came out.
Oh, no.
Hennig really thought that he knew his weakness.
I guess so.
What an idiot. I love stupid heels. They're way better than stupid baby faces.
That's true. So a special bonus match at the pay-per-view was Rey Mysterio Jr. making his surprise return to challenge Chris Jericho for the Cruiserweight title and win the title via some sort of interference from Dean Malenko. It looked like, by countout, honestly, he'd won. But they gave him the belt. So Mean Gene's there to interview JJ and Ray. Jericho soon interrupts. Produces the WCW rulebook.
That's a goddamn thick rule book.
It's just like War
There's
and Peace.
no way there's that many rules in WCW. That's impossible.
It gets thrown out every night.
He turns to page 257.
I was hoping it was Death of WCW with the dust jacket off. But then I realized it hadn't been published
That
yet.
would be quite a feat.
That would have been pretty awesome, though.
Let's go back to the future, Marty.
Have to get the new breed on
That's
this.
how we know there's no time travel. Because what a rib that would have been.
Because if we had time travel,
That's first on my
the
list.
first thing we would do is plant books in the future on old TV shows.
Wrestling, specifically.
This one. I'd go back, I'd switch this book out.
So page 257 in the WCW rulebook states, if a suspended wrestler interferes in a match, the result of that match will be rendered null and void. Why isn't this the rule for all interference?
Here's the better question.
Suspended or not?
Why would a suspended wrestler be in the building for a wrestling show?
Well, who the fuck knows, but it happened.
I know.
So it's a good thing that rule was in there.
I'll tell you.
So, Dylan admitted this rule is true, and technically the match last night never took place, and technically Chris Jericho was still champion. And then they went on and on and on. Malenko comes out, you'll never get away with this.
Worst supervillain ever. Or superhero ever.
No, you're right the first time, really.
Okay.
And Jericho says, you guys should wrestle each other for a title shot at me. And Ray and Dean are competitors. They agreed with that. And
Oh, I forgot to mention
JJ
this in
put
the
the
Raw
match.
report. Because it kind of plays into Jericho, who they both hate, signs a match, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
On the Raw show, Hunter comes out with this fucking convoluted gobbledygook idea about, let's have a match, and Steve, you're going to be at ringside as a ref.
Sure.
Undertaker, you're going to be at ringside as a ref. And I mean, Steve Austin makes it patently obvious in the ring that this is a stupid idea, he doesn't want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Then he comes out and does it. What? Why did his character come out to referee that main event? Why did Undertaker's character do it?
He didn't have a cooler full of beer.
Not to mention, Vince signed the match and he hates Vince. That's double reason to not do it.
I guess you got to pick your battles.
It was stupid is what it was, Vinny. Don't defend it.
Pick your battle, Vinny.
Yeah, this is a bad one.
Move on.
Don't die on this hill.
So this Nitro party,
Oh, God.
was this the worst one yet?
Yes.
You say that every time.
No, this one was really bad.
These dorks.
Oh,
These
wow.
dorks.
By the way,
It's the worst one ever.
Vince Verhey calling somebody
when
a dork.
When Vince
These-
is appalled at the dorkiness of these guys, it's
Yes.
got to be the worst ever.
Oh, my God. Hacksaw Duggan versus Rick Fuller in a match that actually happened in 1998 on Nitro.
Funniest part was I thought it was Hacksaw Duggan versus Wrath. And it was a good 2 minutes into the match before I realized it was Rick Fuller.
Rick Fuller was probably better than Wrath.
Oh, yeah.
It was definitely better than Duggan.
Well, yeah. When this started, I thought, God, maybe Fuller will win. I couldn't figure out any other reason for this to happen. Because Fuller, as we've noted, was good and big.
Yes.
I can't believe that Hacksaw was able to win without the taped fist.
Hacksaw won without.
That's the most amazing thing.
He squashed Rick Fuller and won with a 3-point stance and the knee drop. Why is Hacksaw Duggan winning squash matches on Nitro in 1998?
Fair question.
Well, they were paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars. He hadn't worked in a year. And they figured, well, we got 3.5 hours, so let's have him do a move and win with the old glory.
Hour number 2 officially started.
Here's Bagwell again. This
No.
time he's hurt.
Before that, the pyro's going off. They're saying, it's hour number 2. Here's where it occurred to me. In the first 60 minutes of the show, we had seen 2 matches that went 2 minutes each. What a Nitro. What action.
I didn't even notice.
Speaking of pyro, we totally glossed over Undertaker almost losing his head.
Yeah, Taker was on the before his match, he goes up on the steps and he goes to shoot off his pyro and the fire shoots up essentially in his face.
Kane's pyro went off instead of Taker's, basically.
Yeah. And Taker kind of leaned back because it's fire and then just went on with his life. Unless you actually set him on fire, you won't break him. And we've seen that too.
Sorry, go ahead.
Nothing to apologize for. They recap Buff Bagwell's appearance in promo last week.
Guys are so polite. It's ridiculous.
Very friendly. So Buff comes out again. I remembered his appearance last week, and of course I remember where the rest of Buff's career goes. I totally forgot this incident here ever happened. Buff is pushed out in a wheelchair by his doctor. And Gene says, Buff, I got to ask you what's going on with the NWO. And Bagwell says, so much has changed since I've been gone. There's black and white. There's red and black. I got to move on with my life. Scott Steiner's got to move on with his. But before I move on, I got something to say to Rick Steiner, the man who did this to me. Because I've always been a guy, when I fall off a bike or fall off a horse or crash a bike, I always get back up. I always move on, but I can't move on until I say something to Rick Steiner. So Rick Steiner comes out, his arm's in a sling too. And then before Buff can say anything, out comes Hogan and the Disciple. Buries him, calls him a couple of cripples.
He says the only thing I hate more than cowards is cripples.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Yes. He buries Buff for crying and whining, and the next thing you know,
He says he's sick of all this babyface crap.
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Those were his exact words.
That's funny. Then he tipped the wheelchair over, and Buff and his near-paralyzed neck go tumbling to the floor. People are outraged. Buff is down grabbing his neck. Rick can't do anything. His arm's in a sling. Hogan walks to the back. Crowd's telling him he sucked. All I could think was, oh my God. If Buff came back for this, and they did 6 months of Buff beating NWO guy after NWO guy, leading up to a match with Hogan, giant business.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking this as it's occurring to me, thinking, and it's not what they did. It's not
No,
close.
It's not even close.
They didn't try.
I realized that Hogan was sabotaging the show and hijacking it and making it all about himself.
You don't say.
But with that said, this was such an amazing heat angle.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was so good. And I thought, Bagwell's got to come back and beat Hogan for the title. Of course he didn't.
we know that.
Yeah,
You know, watching what didn't happen, but we can't help but think it's what had to happen.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
staring you right there in the face.
It was just, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, this is the greatest setup for
Oh,
this comeback.
and it's not like Buff wasn't a babyface for years.
No,
Oh,
and he was a
awesome.
babyface here. He was a babyface last week.
Jesus.
Yeah, they're idiots.
Oh, it would have been so great. I've mentioned this before. They gave millions and millions of dollars to Bret Hart, and then have done nothing with him except for that one match with Flair. Mm-hmm. Bret Hart wrestled Booker T at the pay-per-view. In the weeks leading up to that show, they do one thing to tease that happening on Nitro? Anything to advertise that Bret Hart's going to be wrestling on the pay-per-view, perhaps you should purchase it to justify our paying of his salary?
No. That wasn't the...
I knew it was happening.
But hold on. Let me defend it.
I think so, yeah.
But it didn't matter
It's like 2 weeks
because
ago
like
they did something for
it
it.
wasn't selling one additional buy over the Rodman, Hogan, DDP, Malone thing. I mean, the show did enormous business. They didn't need to promote this match.
That's true.
The bigger issue is he's just out here having a very good match with Fit Finlay.
That happened on Nitro, yeah.
And it was like a really fun match.
Yes.
But I watched it and I just thought, cool.
Yeah.
you
wasn't
paid this
special.
guy $2.5 million a year
to be a good mid-carder.
to just be a fella that comes out and does matches. I realized that like they kind of had a long-term deal. Like eventually he was going to split from Hogan, feud over the title and everything like that. And that's obviously a long time coming. But man, it's had nothing for the guy to do.
No.
On paper, this looks like a dream match. Finlay and Bret Hart. And they went out there and,
I thought it was
okay.
great for the time they had.
It was good.
They had a professional wrestling match.
They did.
They went back and forth a bit, and then Bret caught him in the sharpshooter, and Finlay tapped out. The end. It was much better than 47 things going on in every show on Raw. Every match on Raw. It was much better than Stevie Ray versus Rick Martel.
Oh, poor Rick.
Well, here's the story. Martel blew out his knee, was gone forever, after he'd had a really good run and was looking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He heals, he gets back in great shape, he comes back here.
Giant knee brace.
They say, you're going to be working Stevie Ray your first match back. Gets in the ring. They give him 9 minutes. He's doing this match
With Stevie Ray.
He puts him in like a crab or whatever. God bless Bret Hart. When I was a kid, I loved Bret Hart. He was one of the wrestlers I emulated. Bret Hart has always claimed I never hurt anybody.
Wrong.
He comes out here with a steel chair and he fucking whacks Rick Martel right in the back of the head.
The back of the head.
Martel's like on Dream Street. And then Stevie Ray grabs the guy. I think I mentioned this last week. Maybe I didn't. Why the fuck did you give this move to Stevie Ray? A double underhook elevated pedigree. Drops Rick Martel right on his fucking head. 2 segments after Bagwell was out there with a broken neck. And Rick Martel fucked up his neck and never wrestled again. That was the story of the return of Rick the Model Martel.
Sad.
That fucking sucks.
It sure as shit does.
Start to finish.
One thing he did leave out, Stevie Ray came out with a television title. Apparently he's holding it for Booker T.
Well, we'll get to that. Yeah, before I should add, by the way, that in the 10 minutes prior to the end of Rick Martel's career, this match was awful. They did a bunch of arm bars, the crowd let them know how boring it was over and over again, and then tragedy struck.
Stevie was terrible. Not as terrible as The Disciple, for example, but we'll get to that. Or Barry Darso.
Oof.
Or a half dozen other guys on this show.
So, after the match, a blown-up Stevie Ray does a promo. He says, Booker T is in the hospital. Has given me power of attorney to defend the TV title. He promised to bring documents proving this next week. He rambles on about being a fighting champion, and Gene tries to wrap it up, and Stevie takes the mic back and says something else, and Gene tries to wrap it up, and Stevie takes the mic back, and oh my God. Eventually they finished. It sucked.
Show did.
Pics of Conan beating Disco Inferno at the pay-per-view. Then we had Conan versus Barry Darso. And I thought, you know what?
Dude.
If Hacksaw Duggan can get a good one on this show, maybe Smash can too.
No. Less said about it, the better. Conan won.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, that all happened. DDP came out for a promo. Apparently, Mike Tenay was legit scared out of his chair by Paige's pyro. Paige accepted Disciples' challenge. They did a match.
You know, old DDP did the best he could here. And the fans loved it. And I guess it was a good match as a result, but my God, was Disciple terrible.
Yes.
He was so horrible.
Was he ever really good?
No.
No, he
barber?
was not ever really good.
Right. So why do you expect anything else?
Well, because they're professionals.
Not to mention he probably has
and
a
he's in there
concussion.
with DDP, and it was scripted move for move, and it was like 2 minutes. I mean, how can you fuck that up?
Well, they did. So, Rude comes out. He crotches Page in the apron, but then Page throws Disciple into Rude, wins with the schoolboy. And then as Page is going to the back, Hogan jumps him with a chair, and then NWO all gains up.
Hogan is working so hard to get his heat back. He's working so hard. He's working overtime.
Canyon versus Raven versus Saturn. How much better does Saturn look in wrestling gear?
Yeah.
That was great.
He looked great in this match.
That too.
So this was a triangle match?
Yes.
That's what they said.
A hardcore triangle match?
No.
Kinda.
Well, I mean, they used every hardcore thing they could think of.
Well, that's true.
How the fuck do you have a count out
I don't know.
in a three-way hardcore match?
I don't know.
This was bullshit.
I always thought triangle matches didn't have
I don't know.
There were no countouts, no DQ in a triangle match. Is
The
that
action
correct?
here was really fun.
Yeah.
They did a lot of stuff the fans had never seen before.
Canyon did moves.
Canyon did all kinds of moves as
Everyone
he's
you
wanted
could
to.
think of.
Raven suffered some sort of serious injury in this match, like cracked ribs, or he went to the hospital after this match. I don't even know how. The other two guys did all the work.
Saturn's elbow, maybe?
They did the cool. There was a cool spot where Saturn and Canyon were on the top ropes, and Canyon tried to splash, and Raven rolled out of the way, but he rolled right into range for Saturn to hit a splash instead. That was a great spot, and it should have been the finish because it was awesome. They did some stuff, and then Canyon and Saturn just brought up the aisle and got counted out.
Yeah.
Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
This was good.
This was
Spectacular.
great, and it was so great. It looked like it was so easy for them.
It was.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But like if they had finished this great match and gone to the back and they said, guys, we need to do another great match, they would have said, okay, and gone out and done the exact same great match again.
There was one thing I must criticize, though, in this great match. So they do a deal where Ray goes running, and Malenko vaults him over his head, and Ray's supposed to land on the top rope,
Yeah.
and he slips, and because Ray is like a professional
Right.
and a really great wrestler, he wraps his knee around the top and middle rope and falls backwards and starts screaming and grabbing his bad leg.
Yep.
Dean Malenko looks at him, lifts him up, and shoots him off the ropes for a high spot. I was like, Ray just gave you on a silver platter the
Yes.
opportunity to work over his leg for a little bit and turn it into a spot in the match so people would know that it was an obvious fuck up. But no, you just kept doing your moves. It was a very unveteran thing for Dean Malenko to do.
Well, Dean Malenko's kind of a robot.
He was very robotic in this match, but he was a hell of a wrestling robot.
Oh, yeah.
He was way better than Dasha.
Again, let me write that down.
These are important notes to be learned. Bobby Heenan was blown away by this match. I could legit tell how impressed he was.
Bobby Heenan so wants to watch good wrestling and good storylines.
Who doesn't?
Well, like the other announcers just kind of go along with everything, but Heenan shuts off when it's terrible, but then he turns it on when it's good.
He's like weeping with joy watching this.
He was so happy to be calling something good.
Yes. So Dean hits a top rope gutbuster. Jericho runs out, hits Dean with a belt, and Ray rolls over and gets a 3 count. So Jericho is afraid of Dean. He'd rather fight Ray. A tremendous wrestling match. Disco Inferno and Alex Wright came out for a promo. A notorious moment in Nitro history here.
I do like the storyline that he's afraid of Dean, but he wants to fight Ray,
He's smaller.
who beat him the night before.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a stupid heel. So Disco and Alex here have formed a team called the Dancing Fools. And Tony is talking about them. He says, these dancing fools or dancing dildos, whatever you want to call them.
Is that what he said?
Oh, yeah.
I missed that.
Oh, it's a famous moment. The same night Sean talked about a lot of shit going down on Raw.
I remember
Tony's here
this
on
now.
Nitro talking about the dancing dildos.
That's right. I wonder what he was trying to say.
Well,
Dingbats?
I'm wondering if it was an accident.
That's true.
Is that something? I don't know if that's one of the 7 dirty words or not.
Oh, crap. We're on the air.
So Disco lost to Conan at the pay-per-view. He blames this on Wolfpack interference, and he's right. So he demands a rematch tonight, the Dancing Fools against any 2 members of the Wolfpack. So it's Kevin Nash and Lex Luger in this match. Now, like a month ago, Sting won possession of the tag titles and got to choose a partner.
Right.
And he picked Kevin Nash.
Right.
So Sting and Kevin Nash are the World Tag Team Champions. Since then, we've never seen those two wrestle. as a team. But we have seen Sting and Luger twice, and now Nash and Luger.
Right.
What is the point of the tag team championships?
I don't know.
Did they come out wearing their belts?
You may have missed them on Thunder or the pay-per-view. They're doing the Freebird rule. I guess.
I guess.
All I know
Then
is...
why do they do the big angle? Sting had to choose a partner.
Who the fuck knows? All I know is at the end of this match, Sting is so happy about something.
Oh, dude, he's happy from the time he came out.
He's laughing with Luger, and he's patting him on the back. And I'm trying to figure out what's so funny. Here's the only thing that I could figure out. The finish of this match is Luger puts Alex Wright in the rack.
Yes.
And Nash
You're
is supposed
exactly
to
right.
boot Disco and give him the illegal powerbomb, which apparently is now legal. It takes Nash so fucking long
Yes.
to just boot this guy and lift him up and powerbomb him. Luger had this guy in the rack for like 10 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that Sting is just howling and his buddy having to rack this guy and rack him and rack him. And of course, Luger doesn't just hold the guy. He's got to bounce up and down.
Oh, yeah.
And he's bouncing. And Alex Wright's just flopping all over. And he's bouncing. And he keeps bouncing.
getting more blown
And
up.
Nash is trying to figure out how to kick Disco. I was like, Jesus, this fucking Monday Night War is killing me.
So Nash eventually hits Disco with a massive powerbomb. Like, Disco is way over Nash's head at the highest point. And pins him, and the Wolf Pack is the happiest bunch of wrestlers you ever saw.
They made them look like complete, well, fools.
Dancing dildos.
All I could think was, the Wolf Pack came in here, clearly the dominant team going in,
Yes.
cheated to win, copious interference, all four guys getting involved. They used an unfair advantage, was totally unneeded. And everyone loved them.
That's true.
It was all right. Whatever. Okay. From Thunder, we had a clip of Mongo showing a clip of a classic Arn Anderson promo. Mongo said this relit the fire under me, and he asked Arn to think about it. And we had Eddie Guerrero versus Mongo. Chavo came out bald, wearing a cowboy hat, riding a hobby horse.
I can't take much more of this.
Eddie Guerrero, arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And he's stuck in this stupid storyline gimmick.
Yep. So Chavo wants
You know, like, until about 2 months ago, I always read about how the cruiserweights were so wasted in WCW. And up until 2 months ago, spring of 98, they weren't used that badly.
No, you're right.
And so I don't know.
We've had this argument before.
I know, but now I realize exactly why everybody left.
Yeah.
It's totally fallen off the cliff with this fucking hobby horse. It's in the last month or two, like it's fallen off a cliff. And I really saw it here. I was like, how could these people be working here? Eddie's feuding with Mongo. This fucking idiot's on a hobby horse. Like, it's so bad. The stuff with even Jericho's trying so hard, but this stupid storyline is just like a mess. Malenko, Eddie's gone, rule books, things flip. It's just bad. No wonder they left. I'm ready to leave. I can't handle Raw.
So Eddie goes up top for the frog splash. When Chavo hits the ring, rides his horse around, and the ref says, that's a DQ. I'm just fucking done. Eddie dropkicks
Join the club.
Chavo into Mongo. He leaves. Mongo kills Chavo with a tombstone. This was a huge waste of time.
Not only that, you're underselling this thing with the ref. Chavo gets in the ring. I gotta sneeze. It'll be better than this show.
Look at the lights.
Not gonna do it.
Look at the lights.
Look at the lights.
It does help,
helps.
but I'm not gonna do it.
If this was Triple H, we'd be doing shoulder rolls. Right now.
Chavo's in the ring writing
Looking at
this.
the lights helps you stop sneezing?
No,
No,
it
it
makes
helps
you
you
sneeze.
sneeze.
Ah. Wait, what?
Yep. Next
Doesn't
time
make
you're
any more sense.
How
next
old are
time
you?
you're about to sneeze and you feel like you got to sneeze, but you just can't. Look at the light. You'll sneeze
Yep.
Really?
every time. Yeah, it's weird.
I never heard of this. Go on your
Well, we
ring.
got 2-1 here, so
He's Googling it now.
I don't
Lights
care what Google tells you.
and-
It's a fact.
Sneezing. It comes up.
You
Yeah.
know what also helps? Snort pepper. That'll help you sneeze.
That I buy.
Yeah.
Photic sneeze reflex,
Thank you.
also known as photoptormosis.
Yep. Exactly.
Or or autosomal dominant compelling helio-ophthalmopathic outburst syndrome.
That's what I usually use.
Or which goes to a chew.
Only in, casual conversations.
So anyway,
This is my favorite part of the whole show. right
Chavo's
here.
out there on this stupid hobby horse. He's in the ring on a fake horse, yelling at Mongo about what's to be in the horseman. How long did this go on before the ref rang the bell?
A while.
At least a minute.
Hours!
He did several laps around the ring. In the ring. Around the... Yeah.
Garbage.
There's a lot written here about sneezing. Let's see.
Can
Hogan,
we just get going?
Hogan
I'm
versus
sick of this show.
Hogan versus Hall with Eric Bischoff as special ref. Hey, Brian, what's your favorite wrestling gimmick of all time?
I hate the heel ref. Why didn't they just screw him immediately?
Hogan's cheating and choking and blatant interference in front of the ref, and Bischoff doesn't care. And Hall drops to make a cover, and Bischoff won't count. But then Hogan goes to make a cover, and Bischoff counts one, and Hall grabs the ropes, and Bischoff says, "Oh, sorry, he's got the ropes."
You know another thing about this heel ref gimmick that's so stupid? It makes the babyface look so dumb. Like, Hall's in there. You know the guy is not going to count a pin for you. You know he's going to side with Hogan. You know that he's allowing Hogan to cheat, and they're just in there to screw you. Why don't you just leave?
Okay, let me counter.
Please explain.
I'm not going to defend this, but they wanted to teach Hall a lesson. So in this case, I can almost look past the bad, stupid heel ref thing.
Why didn't they just beat the living hell out of him like they did at the end of the match? What lesson are they teaching him?
If they stopped the match, they couldn't get their licks in.
Yeah, they could, because they got their licks in after the match.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Craig, I'm laughing at your argument.
What? They can't get their licks in without the match?
They had already signed the match, right?
Sure.
Okay. If they didn't have the heel ref, Bischoff, be the heel ref, Hogan couldn't get his hands on Hall.
Because no one
Hall.
in wrestling has ever beaten somebody up after a match.
I understand.
Why didn't they beat him up and not sign the match?
That would have been better.
This is so stupid.
Like I said,
Do you know this company died? Do you know that they went out of business just scant years later? Are you aware of this?
I read that somewhere.
I got a book about it.
Yeah.
It's called The Death of WCW. It's available on Amazon.com, Audible.
You still have time if it's Prime. for
Hey, listen,
another
Prime
hour.
Day.
Audible, any day you want, you get an Audible free trial, and you could get the book for free. You don't even have to pay for it. Do the Audible free trial. There's a link up on my Twitter, and read the damn book or have me read it to you for free. In case you're unaware, this company went out of business due to incompetence such as this.
Can you grab the book now and I'll lay on the couch here? And
It's right there. It's around here somewhere. It's in there.
Let's look at the bookshelf.
Yeah, don't get that one.
I found it.
There's one book on that. Never mind.
So Page runs out. He's brawling with Hogan. Nash runs out. He goes after Hogan. He checks on Hall. Hall and Nash are buddies, but then as soon as Nash turns his back, Hall jumps in from behind, and we get Hall and Nash in one corner, Hogan and Page in the other, and it goes on and on and on.
No buys.
No buys. Main event was Goldberg versus Kurt Hennig.
Beautiful.
First
Really
of all,
was.
I have a lot to say about this 40-second match. How great did that belt look around Goldberg's waist?
Yep.
Look, he was born to wear that thing.
Yep.
You don't say.
You'll recall earlier on this program, Kurt said he'd found Goldberg's weakness. And you know what he did? Goldberg has no defense for a slap to the face. It's the crack in his armor. Hennig slaps him in the face, scores a perfect shot, direct hit, bullseye. And then Goldberg no-sold it, and his spear and a jackhammer in one.
Well, then apparently that's not his weakness.
Well, no, blocking it is.
I see.
Absorbing it is a strength.
I thought when he meant his weakness, it meant his overall weakness, not a weakness.
Either way, he was wrong.
He was definitely wrong.
He did not win. He did not end the streak.
I loved this. I loved everything about it. I loved the setup. I loved the match.
You know who else loved it? The tens of thousands of people in this
They
building.
sure
They
did.
went crazy for seeing this champion win in 2 moves.
That was the one thing I noticed. As bad as WCW's been in the last 6 months, that arena was packed from the floor to the rafters.
You know how many times, and they were talking about sellouts too that they were having on the road.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've had people say, I heard this forever, and it never happened. You know, people are going to stop buying these Ronda Rousey pay-per-views. They don't like spending $60 for a main event that goes 30 seconds. You know how many times I heard that?
That's such BS.
The shorter they went, the more people purchased. Same thing with Goldberg. These fans sat through the most horrendous 3-hour show. They paid all that money. All they needed was 2 minutes. All they needed was a spear and jackhammer, and they went home happy.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. This guy was a treasure. Let's play a song.
So, Nitro. Number 149, also July 20th, 1998. Scott Hall comes out for a promo. He compares himself to Gilligan and Kevin Nash to the Skipper.
Yeah.
That's where he went with this.
That's where I went off the rails and was ready to quit this show.
30
right there at the
seconds
very
in.
beginning.
That was a dated reference in 98.
He had a week. He had a week to think of something to say.
Dude, he wasn't thinking about this for a week.
He should have been.
He probably didn't even think about this when he came through the curtain.
He said Nash was a whiner and a crier, not half the man Hulk Hogan was. The black and white was too sweet.
By the way, did all this while wearing a pair of trunks that said Wolfpack on the back.
Yeah. The announcers flapped their gums for a while. They showed a bunch of clips from last week. This show is 11 minutes old. 11 minutes!
Well, it was the next match that really, really set me off. As much as Gilligan and the Skipper was wearing on me, this fucking match and Chavo Guerrero in that stupid outfit, riding that stupid horse on this stupid show,
It's not a real horse.
just made me feel so stupid. What am I doing with my life?
As I wrote here, Stevie Ray versus a small man with no body.
I wrote Stevie Ray versus Geek.
Johnny Boone was the man's name.
I eventually learned this. So Stevie says into the camera that he has left the TV title belt at home with his little brother. Then he gets to wrestle this skinny little geek, and he beats him up for a while. It takes too long. Then Chavo Guerrero appears in a cheap Zorro mask with a hobby horse and the TV championship belt.
I wrote Lone Ranger, by the way.
I did as well.
I've been outvoted.
Yes, you
Chavo,
have.
I apologize to you and your Lone Ranger
Don't
mask.
apologize to Chavo.
Stevie is confused. He gets a pedigree for the win.
The same move, by the way, that retired Rick Martel.
Yes.
Like, nobody thought, hey, you know what? Let's do another move. No, let's just keep doing
Is
it.
Johnny Boone still wrestling anywhere?
I doubt he ever wrestled again. Probably retired after being part of this.
So Chavo runs to the back. Stevie takes the TV title, tries to hide it behind his back. And here I wrote, every single moment of this was the stupidest thing ever.
Funny, I wrote stupid match, Chavo out there with his stupid stick horse and stupid Lone Ranger mask, Stevie trying to hide the fucking belt behind his back even though it was brought out, still using the move that retired Rick Martel, fucking horrible.
I wrote Sigh.
We were all right.
Do you know how badly Nitro got smashed by Raw this week?
Not badly enough.
And you know what's funny
Back
is
over
like
this.
they had been getting killed, and this show was their idea to try to win.
Well, as we shall get into this, I watched this show last night. I usually watch these Tuesday afternoons. I watched this last night, and until right now, when I'm going back over my notes, I have forgotten how horrible this first hour was.
The first hour. Let's keep going.
Okay. Rick Steiner comes out for a promo. Talks about his brother Scott. I got Scott into wrestling in high school, in college, in WCW, because I thought he'd be a good guy to team with. Now Scott thinks...
You don't say your brother?
Now Scott thinks he can do things on his own. I'm not 100% yet, but I want to face Scott at the August pay-per-view.
Hey,
Road
listen.
wild, Gene says.
Yeah, listen. As a fair man, Rick Steiner is not a very good promo, but you know what? He's a believable guy. I believed everything he said here in this interview. So I liked that part of it.
You believe he's simple.
No, I just believed him when he talked about his brother and...
They did talk about brothers a lot.
Am I
Yeah.
wrong, Benny? He's a simple man.
All I know is he had two things to talk about here. Scott's his brother, his shoulders hurt, and he had to try and stretch this out over what felt like about 50 minutes. I can only assume whoever was with Buff Bagwell missed their
Missed
cue.
their cue,
Had
exactly.
to have been, because they're just out there forever saying nothing.
Which made him look more simple.
It did not help. Finally, Buff gets wheeled out. And Rick says, Buff, we haven't had a chance to talk yet. Which is funny, because they've had months. And they tried to once on camera.
They don't have phones or email in 98.
They've been at the same building all day.
Yeah.
Rick says, what happened to you was a tragedy. Well, I was talking about Hogan throwing him out of the wheelchair. That was a tragedy. We had a match, wherever it had been, he said, wherever it was. And I was trying to win, not paralyze you. And I feel like this is all my fault. Well, it was. It was 100% your fault.
That's fair.
So Buff says all the thousands of pieces of fan mail, all of them, had asked if he was ever going to forgive Rick. He said, whatever is going on between you and Scott, that's your business. All I know is, since my injury, I've seen the world differently. I love all the fans, and Rick, I forgive you. And for the first time since his injury, he stands up out of his chair, and he gives Rick a big hug. And Scott comes running out and waffles Rick in the back with a chair. Buff in his neck brace steps in and intervenes, says, no, no, no. And Scott threatens to hit him with a chair, and then hands him the chair, and Buff starts hitting Rick, and he tears off his neck brace and cackles and pulls out an NWO shirt. And the guy with the most obvious babyface comeback story in the world was instead shunted right back into the mid-card heel role he had been when he left.
Yep.
He shouted, I'm back! And I thought, you sure are. You're back to being just a guy.
You know, it was really stupid at the time.
Still is.
It's really stupid today. But it's weird because if you take out the fact that it was really stupid, this was great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because...
Like, Bagwell was a heel. This babyface broke his neck, and he's pissed. And he never forgave the guy. And the first opportunity, he's gonna beat the living shit out of this guy with a chair. And that's that. There was nothing that didn't make sense about it.
I knew this was coming, but I didn't see it coming. Because Buff was believable.
Because it makes no... Well...
No, this made sense, but it was stupid.
Yes.
Because you could have had the guy give Rick his forgiveness, do the big babyface comeback, have the big run with Hogan after Hogan knocked him out of the wheelchair last week, beat Hogan for the title, he can hold the title for a little while, and then when it's time to put on somebody else, like a month later, you do it, and then he can turn on Rick. And you do everything that you did right here. He never forgave the guy. It was all a ruse the whole time, and he's a top heel. So the way they did this, I mean, I don't know. It was stupid.
The only thing I can add here, we talked about Buff being late. I sincerely hope this is because he was backstage begging and pleading, please let me be a babyface. It would be so much better for all of us.
I doubt it.
So there you go. Buff's a heel again.
And healed.
And all better.
Miraculously. Quickly.
I bet his mom was going to be upset. Chris Jericho came out for a promo. He's ranting about Dean Malenko. Challenges Dean to a title match and says if Dean loses, you'll never get a title shot again.
He said that he was going to send him back to Harry's Burgers in Tampa, Florida. And
I would never eat at a place called Harry's Burgers.
apparently that place doesn't exist.
I can't imagine why not.
I mean, it may have existed 19 years ago, but it's out of business now.
Scott Hall, apparently realizing his opening show promo sucked, ambushes the announce desk to talk more. He says, I know you've got a video of Kevin Nash crying. He says, don't show the video, and Nash, you should treat your infection with Monistat.
This feud is so lame. It's so lame.
Yeah.
Hall versus Nash. Like, no one wants to see that.
I don't want to see Nash wrestle. Or whatever he does there in the ring.
They showed a wrecked car.
Oh, God.
It had been driven into a wall underneath a sign. What did it say? Superstar parking or something?
No, star of the show.
Star of the show.
It was they were mocking Jay Leno.
Yes.
To be fair, wrecking this car was doing it a favor.
It was not a nice car.
No.
More bizarre as the minutes go by, Shivani notes.
So, for those of you that don't know, they did Rodman and Malone Rodman and Hogan versus Malone and DDP. Show did the second biggest buy rate in the company's history. So they thought, hey, let's get Jay Leno to wrestle at Road Wild.
Because that's the same thing as two NBA stars.
Two professional athletes at the top of their careers.
You'll be stunned to know it did not do as well.
A middle-aged comedian.
But that was why they were doing all of this. They were building up a feud with Bischoff and Jay Leno to set up a match with Jay Leno at a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Well, there's more to come.
The funniest thing about this is, in the next match, they're discussing this. They're saying, well, Jay Leno likes cars, so the crashed car is clearly a shot at Jay Leno. And Larry Zbyszko, he knows how stupid this is. He refuses to admit that's what's going on. There must be something else at stake here. This cannot possibly be what we're putting on TV. Speaking of putting bad things on TV, Sick Boy versus Mongo.
Listen, this was fine.
What?
It was a minute long.
It was
When I saw Mongo and Sick Boy coming out, I buckled up. I was ready for the worst match of all time. They went a minute, Mongo tombstoned him and won. It was fine.
That all happened. We had a promo from Thunder with Dean, Arn, and Mongo.
This was the best thing on the show, and it wasn't actually on the show.
Dean says, I'm friends with Chris Benoit. We've all been trying to reach out to Arn, saying we believe in you. And he makes a sales pitch to Arn that he should be their manager and they should be the new Four Horsemen. Arn is pissed. Says, you do not have the right to raise those four fingers at me. Nobody understands this. And he shows the scar running down the back of his neck to indicate, I had major neck surgery here. I can't wrestle anymore. He says, the fire I have still burns to get in this ring, but my body won't let me anymore. And if you have any humanity, you'll just let me be. How great was Arn Anderson?
He was the best.
He was amazing.
He was the best.
The worst thing ever on TV happened.
Good Lord.
This was so unbelievably bad.
Eric Bischoff.
This was worse than NWO Nitro.
Mm-hmm.
This was worse than, what was those other horrible segments he was doing for a while there?
The whole sold out thing.
He had his own Tonight Show. Where
That's what this was.
Well, he pretended he was.
This was the monologue leading up to the
this was
interview
horrible.
section.
This was so horrible. How did this make television?
I don't know.
It was live.
Well, he's out there. He's doing the worst stand-up comedy you ever saw, but that was in fact his goal. He
was taking all of Leno's jokes from the previous Friday and repeating them. Mm-hmm. And I know you hate Jay Leno.
When they said that,
boy, did I have a new respect for Jay Leno after watching this.
Kinda. Well, I guess it's more about Jay Leno's material, because the material wasn't good either. It just went on and on, and he's telling horrible jokes.
Forever.
They show fans giving thumbs down, and they piped in laughter.
This was 8 minutes.
Oh my God.
8 minutes of this.
This was the longest 8 minutes of my life. And the
worst.
If I'm ever on death row, they're like, dude, you got 10 minutes left. I'm going to say, can you put in a tape of Bischoff's Tonight Show ripoff? Because I'll be around forever.
Or you want to die.
This never ended.
This is so unbelievably bad.
This was part of his plan to turn around the wrestling war.
I'll go out and tell shitty jokes.
This guy's out of his mind.
I'll steal jokes from Jay Leno and tell them worse. We saw Nash's interview from the locker room on Thunder. Here we go. Okay. So clips from Nash doing an interview on Thunder. Says Hall is going through personal problems. And then halfway through, there's technical difficulties. Shivani begins to apologize. And we see Scott Hall coming out of the TV truck with a tape. Nash is there. Asks Hall if he's got a minute. Hall blatantly curses. Here's your fucking tape, he says, and tosses it at him. He picks a fight. Nash beats his ass. Soon, all the black and white dudes, they jump out of a trailer. They jump Nash. The Wolfpack join in.
Did you notice that Nash walloped Rick Rude with a forearm?
Did not catch that.
Yeah. Rick Rude is not supposed to be taking shots, but he just flew out of there, and Nash turned around, and there's a body, and he just waffled him with a forearm.
Wait a second. Rick Rude's not supposed to be taking bumps?
Oh, no. There was more later.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's trying desperately to get out of his Lloyd's deal.
So, somewhere in here, Kevin Nash goes to throw Scott Hall into a door. Now, as we've all discussed, running the ropes exposes the business.
Yeah.
You're in a fight. If you get pulled into ropes, you're not going to magically bounce off them and keep running because you can't stop. Nash gives Hall a little tug. Hall runs like 6 steps. Then he throws on the brakes. Then he stops, and he jumps up as high as he can and hits the door. This looks so unbelievably terrible.
It was so terrible, but when I really thought about it, it was like, so Nash, for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, thought, I'm going to whip you into this door from 30 feet away. And so he starts whipping Hall, and Hall probably started running and then realized how damn far away he was. Mm-hmm. And he had a split second to think, well, should I just stop? Or should I just keep going? Those were his only choices.
Sure.
And I guess he just decided,
I'll do both.
Fuck, I'm just going to keep going. And he ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and then leaped and smashed into the door, fell on the ground. And listen, he tried to make it look good. I mean,
he did.
No, he did not.
He leaped and smashed into that door. He was like, this is fucking ridiculous, but at least I'll make it look good.
I'm sure he tried his best.
This was one of the highlights of his career.
In the middle of this brawl, there's 12 guys that they're fighting, including some of the biggest stars in the company. Bret Hart interrupts the announcers.
Yeah, but before he interrupted them, they just cut away. I'm like, there's a gang fight going on backstage at Nitro on this boring-ass show. You're going to show a couple minutes and just cut away? Well, yeah, they did.
So Bret Hart interrupts, says he wants DDP's butt in the ring.
He had a butt quota tonight.
He says several
I'm going
times.
to say butt 8 times in this promo. Watch this, guys. And he went out there.
So he wanted DDP's butt in the ring so he could beat his butt and win the U.S. title.
And he wants his butt right here, right now.
Then they cut backstage. This is all one segment. They cut backstage. Paige is laid out. Conan, why are they even hanging out? But Conan is standing over Paige's prone body screaming, Coach! I guess Coach is the trainer. It was never explained. Maybe he was looking for John Tolos. I don't know. Coach! 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 You go back to the announce desk. Bret says, he's fine. Get his butt to the ring. Bret goes to the ring.
What's with butt and then Owen's all about ass?
Maybe they had an in-joke among themselves.
I guess.
JJ Dillon goes to the ring. This is all one segment. This all started with them showing a video of Kevin Nash and Thunder. JJ goes to the ring. JJ and Hart bicker for a while. Then they just go to commercial. And here I wrote, this is one of the worst wrestling TV shows I have ever seen.
It's ungodly bad. And we're not even watching Thunder.
No. In fact, the stuff from Thunder is better than the stuff from Nitro.
We're still in hour number 2, by the way.
Yeah. This is so much worse than any Raw.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Like, those of you complaining about 3-hour Raws, like, you'll get some perspective if you start watching this. This is hideous.
Something good happened.
Yes.
Yuji Nagata versus Saturn.
I love Saturn. He's a great wrestler.
I love watching these men suplex each other. Just throw each other around for my entertainment over and over again. It was great.
So this was the other great irony. On Monday morning, I'm watching the G1, and there's a Naito Ibushi match, and Ibushi grabs Naito and gives him a pile driver off the middle rope. Mm-hmm. Looked like he goddamn near killed him.
Hey, don't flash forward here.
I was like, what in the hell were you thinking, dude? And then I started thinking, when's the last time I saw a pile driver off the middle rope? And people on the board are talking about it. They're trying to figure out when the last time there was a pile driver off the middle rope. I'm talking about it with Dave, and Dave goes, man, last time I saw something like that, it was a tombstone off the top, and the girl broke her neck. Well, sure enough, we go back 19 years ago this week, and Canyon gives the guy... I guess that was actually later. It's not the Saturn match.
Right.
I apologize.
It was the run-in after the match.
Yeah, Canyon ran in afterwards. But anyway, Canyon delivers a pile driver off the middle rope.
Uh-huh.
What is going on?
It's scary. It is absolutely eerie, the practical joke the universe is playing on us.
And then, in The Observer, when Dave's writing about it, he told the same story about the broken neck. I'm like, what is happening?
So, eventually, Sonny to the ref, Raven DDT'd Saturn, and the Nagata lock for the win. Then the Flock came out to attack Saturn. Kenyon made the save. He ran wild with moves, as he intended to do, one of which was, in fact, a pile driver off the middle rope on Kidman. Then he goes to help Saturn up, and Saturn drops him with a DVD. And he cuts a promo into the camera, warning Kenyon to stay out of his business.
Saturn dispatched the whole flock by himself.
He was a badass.
Apparently.
Yeah.
He was also a dick.
He did lay out Kenyon as well.
Yeah, Canyon helped him, and then he beat his ass.
Yeah.
And what a bump he took for this DVD.
They showed Bret Hart ending Rick Martel's career with a chair shot last week. Then on Thunder, Bret ran down all the other old men in the company, said they were all afraid of him. He promised nobody was safe, and then later in that show, he attacked Ray Jr. and Juventud with a chair.
This was actually Bret's best promo, I think, in his entire WCW career. Do you notice all of the great stuff is happening on Thunder, and we're watching Nitro?
It's funny how
now
that works.
I am mad that Thunder's not on the network.
Sting and Kevin Nash versus Giant and Scott Hall for the tag titles.
This match was great.
Finally.
You.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sting came out wearing jeans.
He was wearing jeans and a tank top.
So?
But they had a hell of a match.
It actually fit because this has only happened after the brawl. So Sting did not come to this building prepared to wrestle.
I see.
They got into a brawl. They challenged him to a tag title match. He said, all right, well, fight in these jeans, fucker. Was this not...
I do like... They had a gang war brawl outside. J.J. Dillon ruled, well, if you're going to fight, let's do it in the ring. Okay? So the heels were nice enough to wait for the babyfaces to come out and allow Kevin Nash to cut his goofy promo, and then they came down to the ring for the fight. That's my one criticism. Other than that, I can't remember the last TV match involving Kevin Nash, Sting, Hall, and the Giant that was as good as this match. It's been years.
Of the three, or the four, I should say, three of them have good matches, have matches this good. Maybe not all the time, but fairly common. The list of Kevin Nash matches better than this was short.
Yeah.
He was giving it his all out there. He was good. Kevin Nash and the Giant doing their brawl was awesome. And of course, they're giants, so the place is just going insane. So, Hall was in fact wrestling in Wolfpack trunks to show you how long this heel turn had been planned. Breaks down into a four-way. Sting puts, I believe, Hall in the Scorpion. When Bret Hart runs out, he distracts Sting, which lets Hall hit the Razor's Edge to win the match and the titles.
Well, first Nash went for the illegal power bomb, and the Giant waffles him. Sting gave Giant a low blow right for the ref, which somehow was not a DQ.
He was looking right at them.
Nash runs wild on Hall. Sting goes for the death lock. Giant hits the ring. Nash breaks it up, and that's when Bret came down. Sting shoves down Bret, which everybody went crazy for because they want to see Sting versus Bret. And then Hall grabbed Sting, Razor's Edge, and they won the titles that we'd all forgotten about.
Yes.
They won them.
What an illustrious championship reign this was
Yeah.
for Sting and Kevin Nash. They never teamed together, and then when they did, they lost. In fact, they weren't even a team when they won them. Sting said, here, Kevin, have a belt.
That's true.
And
This
they
had
never
to be.
defended them.
Yeah, this had to be the first time in God only knows how long that these four guys probably had the best match on the show.
Oh, for sure.
Nash, Sting, Hall, and the Giant had the best match on a Nitro. That actually speaks to the rest of the show, quite frankly. And say what you will about the guys, but the fans absolutely loved this. They were so into this.
The announcers recapped all the chaos that happened in the first half of the show. It had the Dancing Fools versus Masa Hiro Chono. That's how the graphic read. And his partner, the Great Muta. So here we are. Go ahead, Greg.
Last week, you said that Tony had said, or you referred to them as the dancing dildos.
Yes.
And there was a debate on the board.
Mm-hmm.
This time, Tony specifically said dancing dodos.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
I rewound it several times and listened. Or he has the strangest accent in the world where the O comes out as ill.
You know, I could be wrong, but I think if you go back to figure fours from this era, I called them dancing dildos for like months afterwards. So I guess I must have thought so too.
I rewound this 3 times, and every time it sounded like he said dancing dildos again.
On this match?
On this show.
Okay.
It sounded like dancing dildos to me.
I don't think that'll make the air.
It did.
No,
Scott Hall said fucking on the show.
Well, that's true.
They wouldn't show us boobs. It's terrible.
Well, he's right. I would rather see those than hear this. Now, they mentioned that Bret Hart wanted Dallas Page, and he wanted the U.S. title, and Page was laid out. That happened earlier. Only at this point in the show, when we're like at least half over. Oh, by the way, Bill Goldberg, due to winning the World Championship, has stripped of the U.S. title, and Hart and Page are having a 2-man tournament for it.
A 2-man tournament.
They're having a match.
Yes.
Do they really call it a 2-man tournament? That's
No,
awesome.
they did not, but that's what it is.
Man.
So
Worst tournament ever.
No, it sounds like the best tournament ever.
get it overdone.
Why waste time? Brackets are easy.
No reason to bring in 32 women. Let's just
Yeah, let's have a two-woman tournament.
I like it.
So the match was fun while it lasted. Muta looked great. He took down Disco with a dragon screw and one with a heel hook out of nowhere. And then Scott Norton came out and powerbombed the dildos for good measure.
What are you laughing at? He did. It's exactly what happened.
I know.
Good call, Vinny.
Thank you. The Nitro girls were dancing. In the middle of the act, a trainer came out on stage and pulled Kimberly to the back.
Serious
news.
Yeah,
Her
I know
husband's
it's
in
bad.
dire shape. Tokyo Magnum versus Ultimo Dragon.
So I don't think that
This is
this
not it.
was the squash.
I know what you're thinking of.
Because this was a great short match, but this was not a legendary match.
No, this is in fact, it wasn't even a squash. It was back and forth. I'm pretty sure I've been thinking about this because we had our conversation about squash matches on Sunday. I think it was Shima. I think it was
Could have
Ultimo
been.
Dragon and Shima at some point.
Could have been.
Regardless, Tokyo Magnum comes out here. Tokyo has got a fancy boy dancing gimmick.
Well, here's how I think we can figure it out, okay?
fancy boy.
Well, he is.
If I recall correctly, the greatest squash match of all time was like very, very shortly before Ultimo Dragon went in for... He had some sort of surgery,
All right.
and he was out for a long, long time. So let's see what it has here. He then suffered an arm injury in 1998 that required surgery. The operation was botched, causing nerve damage. I recall that.
Jeez.
It was thought this would force the end of his career, and he announced his retirement. So, when was that? Guess we'll have to find out.
Well, we're in the middle of 98, so it's coming up soon.
Yeah, I don't think this was it.
No. Dragon did beat the crap out of him, but he also gave him a comeback. Oh, I should mention, by the way, as I was talking about Tokyo being a fancy boy, which Craig enjoyed. Rather than give him some dance music or techno or club music or something, they just say, "Nah, he's Japanese. Put on the slow, the koto, it's called, the big giant guitar thing they play." So he's either trying to dance to the slow ass music, this poor guy. So Dragon beat his ass.
Okay. Apparently this was it.
No.
Yep. I got a list of all of his matches right here.
All right.
July 20, 1998. Ultimo Dragon defeated Tokyo Magnum. Ultimo Dragon was injured during a match and required surgery. So that's the last match they have listed here for his WCW run. So, I mean, unless there was one maybe on Thunder or
That's what I'm
something.
thinking.
I mean, it was a great match, don't get me wrong.
This wasn't spectacular.
But there have been some fabulous squash matches that certainly outrank this one.
Not close to the best squash matches we've ever seen.
No. Interesting. One thing from my childhood, or early 20s, that wasn't quite exactly like I remembered.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Let's see. Dragon won with the brainbuster, or hit a brainbuster, finished him off with the Dragon Sleeper. Okay. Jim Powers versus Scott Norton. We have not seen Jim Powers in a while in the show,
Or Scott Norton.
or Scott Norton, but Powers, in his absence, has lost 50 pounds. He had shrunk significantly. Norton squashed him and won with a powerbomb. And they said, this is a challenge to Kevin Nash. So they have one idea. Let's have guys fight over a move. And they're doing it twice. Sting and Brett are going to fight over a move, and Norton and Nash are going to fight over a move. There you go.
They played the worst video package for Hulk Hogan.
Go on.
It was just stupid. It was
Well, what happened?
It was just a video package showing all the evil things that he has done. And it was in a weird spot, and it was nothing but kissing up to Hogan, the way I saw it.
Yeah,
It was
so
lame.
if you haven't figured it out yet, this whole show, as we'll get to, was all about getting all of Hogan's guys over, and Hogan.
Yeah.
And putting over Hogan, and talking about how great Hogan was, and how diabolical Hogan was,
Right.
because he just lost a title. Mm-hmm. And so he needed to overcompensate. He
Yes.
probably bought
Oh,
a
yeah.
really big truck as well.
So they not only did they play this video package, but of course WCW produced it, so it was horrible.
Yes. And then Hogan and the NWO came out for a promo. And Chono and Muta are out there just like, what's going on? Why are we all just out here in the ring randomly?
Hey, you know what the best part of this was? The most amazing thing? The Giant got the belt around his waist.
Yes.
And it's not a big belt.
No.
So That's pretty impressive.
Well, back when he and Sting were champs, he was wearing both belts around his waist. So Hogan congratulates the new tag champs on their win. Congratulates Bagwell and Scott Steiner on the way they worship him. Thanks Muta and Chono for flying around the world to join them. Promises Eric Bischoff is going to take over for Jay Leno. Promises that Bret Hart will be the new U.S. champion soon. Vows to prove Goldberg is a fluke, and that's that. Now, I will say this. About a month ago, they needed some guys for the Wolfpack or for the NWO, and Hogan wasn't there. So we got like Giant, Disciple, and Vincent as the NWO crew. They're much stronger now. This talent pool is a lot deeper.
It's got a text message to the Observer Live text line. Just says, more Vinny.
Well, done.
Wonder who that's from.
What's his name, Jim?
John.
That's right.
Virginia?
Yep.
The
John in Arkansas.
There you
most
go.
discerning taste of any wrestling fan.
Or John in Memphis, I'm sorry. We got so many Jims and Johns from all over the place.
Jimmy John's makes good sandwiches.
Fat.
What are you looking at me for?
Clips from Thunder of former AWA Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig reuniting to beat Conan and Dallas Page. We had Eddie Guerrero and Conan, or excuse me, Eddie Guerrero versus Conan.
This was Eddie Guerrero wrestling, and Conan it was in there as well.
Pretty much. This is quite a one-man show. Conan comes out with Antoine Carr, an NBA player from Utah. They were in Utah, so everyone loved him. And I gotta say, he was quite awesome staring Eddie down and sizing him up.
Yeah, he had a great look.
Yeah.
Not a great promo, but we can't win them all. It was all right.
He just said Utah's in the house or whatever.
This was another deal where Eddie and Conan are wrestling. They're having their match. Eddie's doing great. Conan's doing all right. And then Chavo comes out on the fucking stick horse, dressed up like the Hamburglar or Conan. At first, the crowd goes crazy because somebody's coming out. Then they see it's Chavo, dressed as the Hamburglar on a stick horse. And they died. And the match never recovered. Nobody gave a shit. Chavo is the ultimate channel-changing heat. Why were people talking about X-Pac heat and not Chavo heat? I don't get it. This was terrible.
All that is true. But I'm going to be, for the first time maybe in my life, the optimist. I focus on the positive. Eddie fucking Guerrero in this match.
Yeah.
I've never seen Conan look better because Eddie was so awesome.
Why, though? I mean,
I don't
realize
know.
I just put over Steve Austin for always giving 110%. Yes. Eddie's out here giving 300% for this fucking segment.
Conan pulls Eddie aside, I imagine. Says, Conan, Eddie, I need you to do me a favor tonight. I need to look big and strong. So when I press you, I need you to go 50 feet into the air. And Eddie said, I'll go 60 instead. He was flying all over the place for this man. He made Conan and Antoine Carr look like the scariest men in the world. And then Chavo, as always, came out and fucked it up. And then after everything's done, the very last thing, Eddie charges Conan. The match is over. It's been a DQ. Everyone's got what they're going to get. Eddie charges Conan. Conan backdrops him out of the ring. Eddie goes up to the sky like a rocket. Just goes flying through the air.
He
and comes back down.
fucking flew 50 feet and just the worst landing imaginable. Bobby's screaming. Everybody thinks the guy's dead. Why?
I don't know.
I'm such a hypocrite. Put over Austin, bury Eddie. But this was just, why?
There's a difference between working hard and taking risks.
Plus, like, Steve Austin's in the main event for a show that's setting up a pay-per-view, even if it's stupid. Eddie Guerrero's wrestling Conan with Chavo on a fucking stick horse. Why are you doing all this?
I don't know.
He's proud.
Lex Luger versus Kurt Hennig. No doubt revenge for when Hennig was a special ref and screwed Luger at WrestleMania against Yokozuna.
Man, this was the match where Rude went up in the rack. He got booted and went up in the rack.
They did nothing in this match, but the crowd loved it. Rick Rude did get in the ring, did get put in the rack, but then Kurt hit the fisherman suplex on Luger, and Rude hooked Luger's leg, and the ref counted 3.
It is a tragedy, Rude and Hennig. They were such an awesome duo. They were so great. The two toughest guys in the world as a duo watching each other's back. I loved it.
Yeah.
God, it's sad.
And I don't think they ever actually did a tag team match.
Oh, they didn't.
Bret Hart versus Dallas Page for the vacant U.S. title. So Bret comes out, and a bunch of officials come out, and they're like, well, Page ain't going to show. And then Page finally limps out. His ribs are all taped up. His knee is all taped up.
Was there an alternate in this two-man tournament if he hadn't come out?
Apparently not.
Wow. Poorly designed tournament.
The talent field was thin, apparently.
Yeah.
Only 2 worthy contenders.
Couldn't find anybody in the back.
No.
The guy from Jersey and a Canadian fighting for this U.S. title.
Jersey is in the U.S.
Well, I realize that, but
Just barely, though.
that's like all they could come up with for a goddamn U.S. title
It's not the
tournament.
best part of the U.S., but... So, Bret, no matter where he's wrestling, no matter heel or face, Bret's not stupid. So a guy comes limping out after a beating with his ribs taped. Bret says, I'm going to punch you in the ribs 57 times. And he did. And he put him in the sharpshooter. Page got the ropes once. Bret put him back in the sharpshooter. He's smiling. The biggest smile on his face since Montreal. And Page submits.
Got his belt.
Got his belt. And all the black and white comes out. They're having a big old party. And Page is shown being put into an ambulance. And that's that. It's the end of the show.
Thank God.
Did I mention that there was no Goldberg on this show?
Bill Goldberg never appeared.
What is happening? I mean, I know what's happening, but God, this show's bad. It's painful. Playing a song. Alrighty, let's get this show on the road.
All right, I'm going to be totally honest. I saw mentions from both of you and Lance Storm about how horrible the show was before I even started it. I didn't hate it as much as you,
That's impossible.
so I will list what happened. But I may be convinced. I'll keep an open mind. Perhaps I'm not going to defend it, but I'm going to say what happened and then step back and let you guys take the spotlight.
Did you watch the show?
Yes.
That's impossible.
There was one god-awful segment. It was the same god-awful segment they did last week.
What in the fuck? Okay, well, let's get going. You've lost your mind.
Sure.
The same Vinny that goes nuts over Raw, thought this was okay.
No, it was bad. It was a bad show. I did not think it was the worst show I've ever seen. NWO comes out, the NWO Hollywood, and Scott Hall challenges the Wolfpack to a battle royal, promises the Giant would win. So they've got all the belts except one. The crowd chants Goldberg's name, and Bryan Adams actually gets to cut a promo. Says, I won a bunch of matches in Japan. I'm going to challenge Goldberg tonight.
Bryan Adams cut a promo.
Yeah. Well,
It's horrible.
he talked.
I mean, it was funny. Claimed that Hogan losing was a fluke and that Goldberg's opponents had all been handpicked and his luck would end tonight. Mm-hmm. I laughed. This was just a bad segment, but it was not yet horrible.
I cringed when I thought of Goldberg wrestling Bryan Adams.
Why?
Well, we'll
Because
get to
Bryan
that.
Adams is no good.
He's terrible, but we'll get to it.
Some of Goldberg's best matches are against guys who are no good.
I'll give you that.
Raven and the Flock were in the ring. Raven says, I've been hated and despised my whole life in high school and today.
We're 15 minutes into the show, by the way. And we
yes.
have gone from an interview segment to another interview segment.
Yeah. Saturn comes jogging out in a tank top tucked into short jean shorts.
Not a good look.
Not the look I would have chosen.
No.
I sure hope not.
Calls Raven a spoiled rich kid.
True.
Canyon comes out to jump Saturn from behind, but Saturn turns and suplexes him.
He was such a geek.
This is the worst sneak attack I ever saw. You'd been better off saying, Saturn, I'm coming to get you now. So, make sure I get all this straight. Saturn suplexes Canyon.
Correct.
Raven sacrifices himself to Saturn. Saturn picks him up. Canyon saves Raven for reasons unknown to me.
But
Let's see. Canyon makes a save.
You're doing a hell of a job here, Vinny.
Canyon leaves out Saturn, and then they all just leave.
Yeah. That segment sucked.
I didn't say I was going to defend anything.
That segment
didn't hate it.
sucked.
Saturn
What
picked,
the fuck's going on?
Saturn picked up Raven for a Death Valley driver, but he got caught in a flatliner by Canyon instead. Now it's clear Canyon meant to save Raven and not Saturn.
You know what the worst
guess.
part about this segment is we all saw it and we all think something different happened.
That's true.
Saturn went to DVD Raven, Canyon saved Raven, laid out Saturn with a flatliner.
Right. Yes.
It sucked.
Barb-
So now we're 17 minutes into the show.
No official match yet.
We've had a talking segment featuring Bryan fucking Adams, and we've had a talking segment that broke down into whatever the hell that was. We finally get our first match of the evening.
The opener.
The opener of Nitro.
Barbarian. The ball bearing. versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan in
Oh,
1998.
My God. This fucking match. So they're having a horrible match. Just a horrible match. And Jimmy Hart jumps up on the apron.
For no reason.
Barbarian goes for the kick of fear.
Oh, yeah.
Duggan moves. Barbarian hits Jimmy Hart. With the kick of fear,
Yeah.
he hits Jimmy Hart. Hacksaw falls down to do a roll-up, but he's fucking out of position. So he has to shimmy his way over, get a cradle, he wins. Hart is literally in the ring instantly.
Yeah, after getting
This
the
fucking
kick of
guy
fear.
just got hit with the kick of fear. He's back in the ring.
So Jimmy and Barbarian. And
I'm not done yet.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Then, a man that Tony Schiavone describes as humorous.
Not humorous.
Humorous.
That's what he said.
He's funny.
It's just like some inside joke that I don't just get.
I think after like 5 years, he just got the joke. I
So,
want to share.
humorous shows up, and Meng runs down to make the save.
Or does he?
And they're double
That's a
teaming
great
him
question, actually.
until Duggan clears the ring with the 2x4. Duggan wants a handshake from Meng, and then Meng puts him in the Tongan death grip.
Yep.
What in the fuck was the point of this fucking
I
segment?
don't have any answers for you. All I know
What
is-
was the point of this segment?
All I know is, for 2 segments in a row, you had 3 or 4 parties where it was very unclear what the alliances and loyalties were.
I didn't know what was going on.
This segment featured Meng, who at the time of this film was 39, Barbarian was 40, Duggan was 44.
Oh, my gosh.
I didn't say I was going to defend anything.
But it's fine. No, it's not
It was
fine.
not the worst show I ever saw.
It's impossible.
What is this leading to? A multi-person match?
I don't know.
Who the fuck knows? Nobody knows.
Hopefully, nothing.
Right.
Hopefully, there's
You're absolutely
gone.
right, Vinny.
You didn't leave out, by the way, Meng has the Tongan death grip on Hugh Morris, and Barbarian's hitting him.
Humorous.
And Meng is no-selling everything. He didn't even need saving. Duggan stuck his nose in anyway.
You know what this is leading to?
I
This
don't.
is leading to Duggan smashing Ming over the head with his 2x4, and the 2x4 breaks.
And Meng will no-sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not worth what I just had to see.
No.
Well, here's the worst segment of all time.
Gosh.
This fucking talk show bit.
So, by the way, that was 2 promo segments and
A 3-minute
a
match.
hideous match. And then this.
And one encounter with Raven and...
And
Yeah.
can I add, by the way, when I say like we're 17 minutes into the show, I'm not counting commercials.
No.
This was nearly the entire first hour.
Absolutely.
Eric Bischoff basically did an entire talk show. He did a long monologue of the worst jokes you ever saw,
Heard.
or heard for that matter. He goes for like 5 minutes or more of terrible comedy. And he starts to walk to the side and think, well, at least he's finally done. Oh no, there is more. Eric Bischoff goes to his desk because I realized they had a whole actual fucking talk show segment brought in for this bit.
Yeah, they had the whole set.
$70,000.
Ah.
I told you this. That's why they keep doing this shit.
The best thing is when he would tell a joke and it was bad. Elizabeth, who was looking gorgeous tonight.
See, that's why Elizabeth was never hotter than she was in this segment.
Oh my God.
Elizabeth would smile, and the band, all wearing these ridiculous NWO glasses, cackling like canned laughter off of a 70s sitcom at his horrid jokes.
I don't give a shit how hot Elizabeth was. This was so wretched. They did this last week and it was wretched. Absolutely wretched. They decide they're going to do it again.
But longer.
And
Twice
worse.
as long.
And worse. So Eric sits down and he does headlines.
This was fucking blasphemy.
See, this is
I
why,
was so mad.
This is why you're pissed.
This is one of the 50 fucking reasons on this show I'm pissed off. This was the stupidest. This was infuriating.
Brian loved Jay Leno's headlines, everybody.
I stopped Nitro every single Monday night at 11:35 so that we could watch headlines. Every single week. And this fucker comes on here and he butchers headlines. Then he calls out Hogan.
It's time for a guest. So Hulk Hogan comes out in the segment that's now gone close to 10 minutes of horribleness. Hogan I mean, we knew it was coming, but Hogan's out there to run down and threaten Jay Leno.
Hulk Hogan is cutting a promo on Jay Leno.
Yeah.
Now, we know where it's heading, but no one did at this moment.
That's true.
They were doing.
That's a good point.
They were doing all of this, and nobody knew they were going to be doing a match in less than 2 weeks. Can you imagine? Like, I watched this and I thought, these, like, I don't know if they were doing it yet, but there were points during the Monday Night Wars where, like, the people backstage would be watching the other show. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, if WWF is watching this fucking show right now, they are dying. They are howling with laughter. This guy's trying to win a wrestling war. He's out of his mind. This was his plan to try to win a wrestling war. We're an hour into the show right now.
Yeah. We're an hour in. The only match we've seen had Hacksaw Duggan in it. So Hogan threatens to go to Burbank and beat up Jay Leno. Eventually, Bischoff throws it to commercial. He threatens more. But thankfully, on this show, there was none to be found. At least no talk show. Nitro Party clips from some pizza place somewhere.
Highlight of the show at this point.
At least they had women at this party.
Right before Fire did a dance, and she's really hot.
Yep. Yeah, good-looking women is the only thing to praise about this Nitro.
Yep.
Mean Gene brings out DDP for a promo. Page calls Hogan scum a few times, and then he forgets his line and tries to cover it up by pretending to be so angry he can't speak, and he promises to bang Hogan.
Yep.
Okay. Scott Hall and Scott Norton came out for their second promo segment in the first 40 minutes of the show.
I got to mention that when DDP threatened that Hogan would feel the bang, that was not even the lewdest thing I heard on the show here tonight. Hulk Hogan later promised to ride him all night long and hang him up wet.
Yes.
By the way, you missed a segment there, Vince.
I did?
Yeah. Dusty.
I was just getting to that. Scott Hall and Scott Norton.
And we're not 45 minutes in. We're over an hour in because you're subtracting commercial time.
I'm subtracting commercial time. Hall, Norton, and yes, Dusty Rhodes came out for a promo.
Okay. Allow me for a moment.
Go ahead.
Dusty comes out. First off, when's the last time we saw Dusty?
He was there.
It's been a while.
He was there about, maybe 4 to 6 months ago. He came out with the NWO.
Comes out with Scott Hall and some other geeks. It doesn't even matter. And he starts going off. We haven't seen this guy for 6 months.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
He randomly comes back for the sole purpose of saying to the announcers, you know what? I was the best announcer of all time. And then he says, I can't even believe I'm saying this. He said, me joining the NWO. He's standing with the NWO.
Yep.
Me joining the NWO is collusion to take me out of the announce booth. What?
Okay, you got more ahead of this than I did.
No, that's what he said.
I didn't get that part.
He is shooting or something.
Okay.
He is explaining to us at home that, in fact, he didn't join the NWO. He was put in the NWO by the company as a way to get him out of the announce booth.
I didn't get into
That's
that.
what he said.
Yeah. I missed that part.
I didn't get that out of that.
Those were his exact words.
I believe that you believe that.
No, those were his exact words. He said that word for word. I joined the NWO and it was collusion to take me out of the booth, and he's mad about it. Then he says, Larry, you suck. I'm putting you under a Texas gag order.
That's what he said.
I'm going to give this thing that I want you to put around your mouth.
Bandana.
And if you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Now, the reason that Dusty had, and I laughed and laughed and laughed, Dusty said to Larry that you butcher the English language, son. And I died.
I was so furious during this segment.
Dusty claimed that he butchered the English
Larry did.
language.
Yeah.
That is the damn least of our worries. That is the least of our worries. That's at least a heel saying a funny line.
Well, it led to Scott Norton versus... Stop right there. Of all the people on the Nitro roster,
Dude,
Scott
we're
Norton...
like an hour and 10 minutes into this show.
Yes. Scott Norton versus Jim Neidhart. A smaller, shittier version of himself.
Dude, I can't believe I'm going to praise this, but after all this time, this is the second match on the show. Am I wrong?
You're exactly right.
We're an hour and 10 minutes in. It's the second match on the show. It's Scott Norton versus Jim Neidhart. And Norton picks him up, powerbombs, and pins him.
20 seconds.
15 seconds.
Like, I was half overjoyed and half even more furious.
I was overjoyed because did you see this powerbomb?
It was gorgeous.
Oh, man, he made him take a
He
bump.
lifted the anvil high into the air and then slammed him very hard to the ground. I have never seen Neidhart thrown around like that. Hardly a contest, Tanay notes. Had a Goldberg video package. It was better than most WCW videos, I'll say that.
Not saying much.
No. And then they go to Goldberg's locker room, which has been ransacked, and there's NWO graffiti all over the walls. Bret Hart came out for a promo. Wrestling is full of pimps and thieves. Good men die young, but at least now I'm a champion.
They're on the other show, actually. The Pimps and the Thieves.
I see, yes. Yeah. So he talks about Sting, says he has a lot of respect for Sting. We are both the face of the company. We both got stabbed in the back. Out of respect for Sting, I have stayed on the fringes of the NWO. Now, what happened last week when he distracted Sting, leading to Sting losing the titles, that was all Sting's fault, he said. And Sting, it is now up to you to be a champion and learn from your mistake. But remember, I am your friend. Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko. They basically did the last 5 minutes of a great 20-minute match. Just near falls and big moves and finishes seconds in. And they're doing this stuff, and Jericho grabs a pair of brass knuckles. Dean ends up with it and hits Jericho with them, but the ref sees it and calls for the DQ. And I forgot until the match is over. Per stipulation, this was Dean's last shot at the Cruiserweight title.
Right.
First off, we're 90 minutes in. We get our first good match. Most of it is during the commercial break.
It's rushed.
And what's funny is the fans were so into this match. It was proof that you could have turned this company around. These fans wanted to see some great pro wrestling. They wanted a good product. They were willing to support it. And they were presented with this shit. Jericho gets the gimmick, ref goes down, Dean avoids it, he gets the gimmick, waffles Jericho, he's parading around with the fucking gimmick in his hand. The ref wakes up, DQs him. Dean Malenko is the babyface. He's a goddamn idiot. He deserved everything he got here, and we were supposed to have sympathy for this guy.
Cheating is not in Dean Malenko's programming, you see, because he is a robot.
I guess not. You do not get the cheat code. Mean Gene promised an interview with Goldberg soon.
You know what's funny about it is, I didn't realize at the time, this was Goldberg's first ever interview. Mm-hmm. I was like, why are you telling us you're going to interview the guy later? Who gives a shit? Just interview the guy. I've seen so many Goldberg promos, I'd totally forgotten he had never done one in WCW yet.
That's right. Kurt Hennig versus Steve McMichael.
Kurt Hennig versus Steve McMichael. Mm-hmm. Now listen, going into this, I was excited. Mm-hmm. Because Kurt Angle's a guy who takes great bumps, and Mongo's a guy who takes absolutely horrendous bumps.
As we saw.
Then it went like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
What a waste.
All I know is in those 2 minutes, I got to see Kurt Hennig do a neck snap, and McMichael ironically took the bump like Angle taking a stunner.
Yeah.
Just did the falling tree plunge.
Now, the bad thing in this match is the facial hair choice that Rick Rude has made. He now has
Never
chops.
criticize Rick Rude.
That's what I thought. Ryan.
Never.
I said...
He looks
That's
tough
a
no
man-
matter what he does.
Go back and look at this.
Oh, I saw
beard.
it.
It was not good.
It wasn't his best.
And he's growing chops as well.
That's the key. That's what made it really bad.
He looks like a comic book villain.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
But it did on him.
I see.
Because Rick Rude is cool.
Because Rick Rude is not a comic book character.
That's right.
He is legit.
Yes.
Show is not yet half over. Hogan and Bischoff came out again.
Yep.
Here is where Hogan promised to ride Page real hard.
Yep.
And I asked, is that before or after Page bangs him?
He also said he's going to put him away wet.
Yeah.
Hang him up wet.
That was it. They did a 3-minute entrance for a 1-minute promo and went to commercial.
The arm butter between him and the disciple.
The
Arm
what?
butter?
What are
Yes,
you talking about?
There was so much arm butter on these two men. They were glistening.
Brian, what is arm butter?
I don't know what he's talking
Craig,
about.
what is
Baby
arm
oil.
butter?
Baby oil.
I see.
Why don't you
arm
just say baby oil?
Because arm butter is funny.
Oh.
That joke fell flat. That was like the Bischoff Tonight Show. Yeah. Now listen, a couple of weeks ago, I watched 40 minutes of a Nitro before I realized it was from a year earlier.
Right.
When all of a sudden I was watching Hogan and Rodman versus DDP and Malone, I thought there was a glitch. They aired... You know what's amazing about this? This goddamn match went on fucking forever. Mm-hmm. It was edited.
What?
In real life, it was 6 full minutes longer.
Are you certain?
I'm positive. This was an edited version of the match. Now, granted, the rating for this match was sky high, and they almost beat Raw. If Raw had not had that little overrun, they would have won. But with that said, to give away this match for free and put this fucking match on TV, Rodman fell asleep in the corner at one point. Rodman was like simultaneously so bad and so good. Like, he looked like Hawk
They made the same comparison.
on the previous
Yes.
show.
Yes.
But you know what? He was never out of position.
No.
He took every bump he needed to. He did it all half asleep.
It was hysterical the lengths Hogan went to not get him involved.
Oh, yeah. But,
I see.
I mean, this goes to show what a tremendous athlete Dennis Rodman was.
Yes.
He did no practice, and he was not in a good state of mind, and he had an acceptable match.
It was a 1-star match.
The funny thing, Hogan would tag him in. They would do some double move on Karl Malone, and then Dennis would go back out on the apron.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was, Hogan said, no, ref, let him leave. Or Dennis, you leave. And they would go, just keep wrestling.
Also, Karl Malone deadweighting Hogan on a belly-to-back suplex.
Yeah.
And Hogan literally doing a shoot suplex on the guy.
He did. He had
He
to.
had to lift him and drop him.
Because Karl Malone, NBA star, did not jump.
No.
So maybe it's because this is actually the first time I'd ever seen this
Well,
match.
you know, it's a good thing he didn't jump, because he would have ended up like that Singh brother.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
Randy Orton went to give the guy a
I
back
see,
suplex
yes.
on the table, and every guy that he works is like a big stiff that barely goes up, and
Yes.
then this fucker jumped, and he went 30 feet in the air.
Yes. So, yeah, I had never seen this match before.
You know, if Malone would have jumped, he might have got into the rafters.
They have. So I enjoyed it for what it was. It was not a very good match. I certainly don't ever need to see it again.
No.
What I loved about it, loved in
Excuse me,
air
you
quotes.
loved?
Well, air quotes.
Let him talk.
Hogan, of course, has to pin Page after this disciple hits a stunner. Because, of course, there is no chance in hell, that Hogan was not getting the pin here on the highest profile match of the year, especially when he had just dropped the title clean 2 weeks earlier.
Of course.
So I laughed at that. So remember earlier when Hulk Hogan did his whole entrance to do a 1-minute promo? Goldberg did his whole entrance to do a 1-minute promo. As he's taking his long-ass time to get down to the ring, Gene says Goldberg talking is like Michael Jordan playing basketball or Mike McGuire breaking the home run record. Wrong! Now he cut a fine promo. It was a minute long. He said Hogan and his cronies are trying to destroy WCW. He wasn't going to let it happen. And Bryan Adams, you're next. And he was done.
Cool.
His promos on Raw in 2017 were much better.
Way better.
Yes.
This was all right.
I just love that it's the second time in the show someone did a 3-minute entrance for a 1-minute promo. Speaking of promos, me and Gene brings out Arn Anderson. Arn says these youngsters are trying to get me to reunite the Horsemen.
This was so funny. He makes a bunch of good points. He goes, you know, Dean had a chance, and he lost his cool tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And Mongo had a chance, and he dropped the ball.
He lost to the guy who tore up the Horsemen in the first place.
Yep. And Benoit's out with a serious injury.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically telling them to let it be.
He says, last week I asked you to let it be. Now I'm telling you, let it be.
The funny thing is, like, he's absolutely right. But then they reunite.
Eventually they do.
These are words of wisdom.
Yep.
Let it be.
I've heard. So at this point, Tony says they claimed the Bash at the Beach footage had been edited down to the high spots
is what he said,
Yeah.
of Hogan and Rodman.
They took out the low spots.
Scott Hall versus Sting. You know what I noticed here? Sting does a bit where he does a stinger splash, run from corner to corner, and he does another one and then another. So he's got to run across the ring. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't bounce off the turnbuckles like it doesn't hurt.
You're right.
He runs to the corner, he stops, he turns, and he does a stinger splash.
You're right.
It can be done.
Because that would be stupid to do it the other way.
Would be stupid. So, match went like 2 minutes. He goes to the Scorpion. Brett runs out to shout at him. Sting beats Brett's ass, but then Hennig and Virgil attack for the DQ.
God, you hate the WWE camera work. I mean, listen. At least the WWE camera work, they stay focused on a guy as they go up and down and inside out and turn around.
Yeah.
They get into an argument. Sting attacks Brett. I don't know what happened. The camera's filming the ring post, then it's filming a chair, then it's on Dave Penzer, then it's on the floor again. I'm like, can you point it at the action? Is this not day one?
Apparently. Again, they're owned by Turner.
It's called a point-and-click camera. Point is in the name.
So Luger and Nash run down for a brawl. Nash hits Vincent with the worst powerbomb since Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
Dude.
And they're brawling, and Hall hits a low blow. There's a big mess of a melee, and somewhere in here, Sting makes a comeback and goes to put Brett in the Scorpion, but Brett, almost like Dan Severn, squirms away.
He knows how to get out of it.
He does.
Some
the
idiot
same
was
move.
ringing this bell like an idiot over and over and over again. I was
How else would an
infuriated.
idiot ring a bell? So Scott Steiner comes out.
Please stop. Okay. Now listen. Let's all just get over it. Bagwell's a heel. It's all done, okay?
Yep.
It's all done. Now let's begin to celebrate how great Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner are together.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff that I don't remember from the Attitude Era, and as I rewatch these shows, I'm not surprised because it sucked. When this happened, I'm positive I ruined the tape by rewinding it so many times. They come out on the ramp. Bagwell is in a wheelchair with a neck brace, and Steiner is pushing the wheelchair. And of course, the ramp is a straight line, and then the ramp goes down a hill. Mm-hmm. Scott Steiner comes out. He wheels Bagwell to the very edge of the ramp, but then just a little too far. And then he turns and he begins to do a double biceps pose. He must show the fans his phenomenal physique. And as he's flexing, he doesn't notice that the wheelchair started to roll. Bagwell's selling of this wheelchair rolling down the ramp is the fucking funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. And it's perfect. It doesn't just roll down, but it rolls at just enough of an angle that the wheels are like rickety back and forth, and then it tips sideways, and Bagwell goes flying. This was the funniest fucking thing I had ever seen in my life. I laughed. I watched it. Oh, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect in the middle of this fucking terrible show. I loved it. They're so great.
Don't forget the part where Scotty, realizing his error, runs to his friend's side, goes to make sure he's okay, and Buff responds by popping up and doing the Bagwell pose and the smile.
Yes.
Because Buff Bagwell is great.
And
Because
simultaneously,
they planned this.
Yes.
and simultaneously taking off his neck brace as he's doing the pose.
That's right.
It was classic.
This was the only thing on the entire show worth watching.
And Elizabeth.
No, this was the only thing on the show worth watching. You must watch The Tonight Show to see Elizabeth, Vinny.
You can mute it.
No, you can't.
You can, actually.
No.
And I highly recommend it.
No.
You can even pause it if you want
can
to.
see it. That's bad enough.
So Buff does a promo, has them zoom in on the scar where they went into his neck to fuse his C3 and C4 vertebrae, assured us this injury was not fake. It was a calculated attack by Rick Steiner. And they go over their whole plot of having Buff's mom wheel him out, and then Hogan tipping over in the wheelchair. How did he keep a straight face? Scotty says. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, Buff says. And they laugh about how dumb Rick is, and now they're going to beat him up. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on it, but I do love the idea that they used Hulk Hogan as a prop to set a trap for Rick Steiner.
Well, that part makes no sense.
This would be
It's
like
ridiculous.
on Raw in 2017 if you used Roman Reigns as a prop to set up an attack on Goldust.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But, I mean,
But this was great.
well, I gotta say, I'm still very torn because they could have done so much with Bagwell. They could have done so much with this guy. But the storyline, it makes perfect sense. In his mind, Rick Steiner tried to kill him. No, I'm not fucking forgiving you because you show up. I'm gonna kill you. You tried to break my neck and end my career. I have not forgiven you.
We had Brian Adams versus Goldberg. I wrote Goldust in my notes. Oops. It was on my mind.
This was when I was sure that Goldberg's got to go in the Hall of Fame. I can count on no hands the number of men who have had good matches with Brian Adams, and
fair.
he went out there and did it.
He did, just by being totally out of control.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Where'd it go? I wrote, this was short and messy, but the crowd still went apeshit when Goldberg speared Adams. Then he speared Vincent. He speared Adams again, hit a jackhammer, and won.
Because Adams didn't want to really take hard spears and all this other stuff. But Goldberg didn't care. It's like, I'm going to spear you, and like you either take the bump or you're going to go through the ropes to the ground and die. This was a delight.
121 or no.
Yes. Main event was Hulk Hogan versus Dallas Page.
Yes,
Forgot to
this
mention-
went on after Goldberg's match.
Of course.
It hadn't yet. This was the first time. Goldberg got 2 weeks where he got to close the show. And now we're right back to Hogan closing the show.
Yes. So, Buffer did the same intros here that he did at the pay-per-view, where he claimed Page and Malone at the pay-per-view, and Page here, affiliated with no organizations or associations.
Yeah.
Karl Malone plays in the National Basketball Association.
Well, I was more disturbed by... I was already furious because Goldberg worked before Hulk Hogan on this show. Hogan's coming out here for a nothing match with DDP. And Michael Buffer does his intro and just kisses Hogan's ass.
Of course.
He's the biggest star of all time. The blah, blah. I'm just like, fuck off. I mean, we get it. You're the big star. Like, get over it.
So they did 4 minutes of nothing. Page hit a cutter, and the NWO attacked for the DQ.
I love when DDP's making a comeback and he tries to clothesline Hogan over the top, and Hogan just doesn't go.
Oh, yeah,
No.
that too. Yeah.
I was like, come on. Like, can you just turn your belly and jump over it or something if you can't go backwards?
So the Wolfpack runs out for a brawl. Heenan warns us, don't touch the clicker. As he says this, the credits for,
Yes.
copyright 1998, Turner Broadcasting, whatever. That shows up on the screen, letting you know the show is in fact over. And Goldberg appears. He wipes out the black and white. The Wolfpack leave him alone, but then the Giant appears and chokeslams Goldberg, and that's how the show
Are you sure? Because when I was watching it, he lifted him up and then the show ended.
I see.
Right before you hit the ground.
I'm confident
It went
he
to
did not.
black.
I'm confident he did not put him down.
You're confident he didn't levitate?
Yeah, or fly like.
The only good thing about this whole match was in the middle of it, they end up outside, and Hogan calls for Brutus
Yes.
to help him. Add that to the list of names of the former Brutus Beefcake here in WCW. This was the worst show I've seen in years. The worst show I've seen in years.
It's really bad.
Honest to God, I don't think any of those Impact shows that we have buried over the years. I can't fathom them being this bad. It's appalling. I don't believe you watched this show, Vinny. It's impossible.
I watched the show.
I'm going to make you come over and watch them with me from now on so I can just check.
Just verify.
Check
Yeah.
your work.
I mean, come on. You sitting here telling me this wasn't the worst show of all time?
I can't say it was the
Craig,
worst.
was
show
this
of all
the
time.
worst show you've ever seen?
This is one of the worst shows I've ever seen.
Thank you,
I wouldn't
Craig.
say it was the worst, but it was one
Well,
of
there are more to come that are probably worse.
I'm sure of it.
But up to this point, this was the worst Nitro ever.
Absolutely.
That's fair to say.
Okay.
But can you name a worse Nitro?
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Of course you can't, because it doesn't exist, is my point.
Hey, let Vinny have an opinion, for God's sakes.
No.
People love
Listen,
Vinny and his opinions.
Listen, I let Vinny have a lot of opinions. I'm not allowing him to have this opinion.
I see.
It's so wrong, okay? Fuck. Well, with all that said, we're out of time.
I'm done.